Xiang Beifei followed Luo Shanyo's voice, flying in the direction indicated, heading towards the mountains to the left for about 1,000 miles. The ground began to rise, forming a huge slope, but after climbing about 1,000 meters, a fault appeared ahead, like a cliff. Ahead of the cliff was an enormous black water sphere, irregular yet massive. It stretched over an area of 10,000 square meters, like a vast lake suspended in mid-air. "Uncle Luo, are you okay?" Xiang Beifei saw Luo Shanyu standing beside the cliff, staring at the black water sphere, and immediately felt relieved. "I'm fine." Luo Shanyu shook his head. "Why did Uncle Luo come here?" Li Qianluo inquired. Luo Shanyu hesitated for a moment before saying, "It was strange. A certain aura attracted me, so I came here." "What kind of aura attracted you?" Xiang Beifei frowned. Li Qianluo said, "Uncle Luo, you can't wander around. Common Valley is dangerous, and if an unknown aura attracts you, it might be a void beast, not something to joke about." "It's not a void beast. It's..." Luo Shanyu pondered for a while and said, "It's my soul." "Soul? What's wrong with Master Uncle's soul?" Xiang Beifei asked. "A mark on my soul. Taoist Qingde once left some special marks on my soul. I originally thought those marks were just for preserving some knowledge, but it seems that isn't the case now." Luo Shanyu explained. Xiaohe stood by the cliff, examining the enormous water sphere, and exclaimed in surprise, "This is Ruishui River." The lake water was black and possessed a chilling, devouring strength. Within a radius of 10 miles, it filled the air with oppressive energy, blocking many perceptions, which was why Xiang Beifei couldn't locate Luo Shanyu earlier. "Ruishui River, isn't that a power of the Xianming tribe? This implies that the Xianming tribe once fought here," Li Qianluo remarked. Xiang Beifei examined the strange, boundless black Ruishui water sphere before him, pondering. This Ruishui was too peculiar, floating in the air as if an invisible force was enveloping it, keeping it suspended and preventing it from falling. Moreover, Ruishui wasn't static, but gently shaking, continuously undulating, this side bulging, that side sinking, like the rising and falling of tides. Luo Shanyu turned his head, looking seriously at Xiang Beifei, saying, "I feel it's your grandfather. It seems like Taoist Qingde. He's right in there." "Impossible." Xiang Beifei shook his head. "My grandfather is in Zhuzhou, and he lost his memory. He still remembered the last time he saw his grandfather was in Chouhou, when preparing to leave Zhuzhou to come to this place, intending to start from Chouhou. But later, his grandfather unexpectedly helped him a lot, and then departed. That was many years ago. Think about it. How many years have you been away from Zhuzhou?" Luo Shanyu prodded. Xiang Beifei roughly calculated, realizing he had been away from Zhuzhou for too long, around 8 or 9 years. What had his grandfather been doing all these years, he did not know. If Grandpa actually came over, why wouldn't he find us in the human race? Xiang Beifei wondered. This question left Luo Shanyu speechless. It was merely a feeling. However, at this moment, Xiaohe spoke up. "Feifei, did you forget? Remember what the old giant spirit said to you at the Bone Mountain Desert Stone Cave?" Xiang Beifei slightly frowned. The Bone Mountain Desert Stone Cave was a very special place where the giant spirit race lived. Strictly speaking, the giant spirit race shouldn't reside in the wilderness because of a powerful force that limits the species from reaching the edge corner airspace. The Bone Mountain Desert Stone Cave had a strong sealing formation, ensuring the giant spirit race wouldn't be repelled by the wilderness. "Giant spirit race? You entered the giant spirit race?" Luo Shanyu asked. "We laughed and chatted with the old giant spirit," Xiaohe said. "It's rare. I thought the giant spirit race was extinct," Luo Shanyu remarked with some surprise. "They weren't extinct, just saved by Grandpa. I remember the giant spirit race was long suppressed in the Bitter Sea. Seemed like it was the Yu Divine Steel that suppressed them here, but later the Yu Divine Steel was moved away," Xiang Beifei explained. Li Qianluo said, "So, is this the Bitter Sea?" "It's possible," Xiang Beifei replied. But I never heard of the Bitter Sea in Common Valley. The Bitter Sea is the territory of the Xianming tribe, and that range is much stronger than this. Li Qianluo commented. Could it have been moved into Common Valley? Xiaohe speculated. He tilted his head and, puzzled, said, Speaking of which, Fei, do you find it strange? What's strange? The words from the old giant spirit, his exact words were, That's my hometown and now I live here. If not forced, who would want to leave their homeland? I don't dislike it, but also don't want to mention it. Xiaohe mimicked the sturdy voice of the old giant spirit. The giant spirit race was forced to leave their homeland. The giant spirit race cannot return to the Edgecorner airspace. Right? Xiaohe said. Xiang Beifei understood. Surprised. I almost forgot this point. Why can't the giant spirit race return? Aren't they a race of the Edgecorner airspace? Era asked with confusion. It's not that they can't return. Rather, the heavenly Dao laws prevent them from returning. I think someone must be utilizing the heavenly Dao divine mark laws to prevent the giant spirit race from establishing themselves in the Edgecorner airspace. Xiang Beifei explained. Era suddenly understood. Ancestral artifact. A very powerful divine object. If someone possesses a certain ancestral artifact, sealing the heavenly Dao laws concerning the existence of the giant spirit race, they can completely erase the giant spirit tribe from the Edgecorner airspace. This matter is most likely the doing of the Dao Palace. In other words, the Dao Palace is very likely to have seized the key spirit patterns related to the existence of the giant spirit race. Back then, when the old giant spirit taught me to comprehend the spirit patterns, he himself was an ancestral Dao realm expert. I actually overlooked this point. Xiang Beifei was quite surprised. The old giant spirit Father Pu previously taught Xiang Beifei the spirit patterns on Seeking Wood. At that time, Xiang Beifei didn't really know what the spirit patterns meant. Thinking about it now, he still underestimated the old giant spirit. He was a strong expert of the ancestral Dao realm. If this place is the Bitter Sea, then the giant spirit race was originally suppressed here, which means that grandfather should have been here. Xiang Beifei looked solemnly at the black mist before him. Indeed, he has been here. At this moment, a low voice came from behind. Who is it? Xiang Beifei immediately turned around, staring intently below. Two men came out from behind the large stone behind him. The two men looked normal in appearance, not tall, only about 1.6 meters, but their bodies were very robust, their arms bulging like stones, as if wrapped in a layer of dark brown stone skin. Xiang Beifei carefully scrutinized them but found he couldn't see through the Dao embryo they cultivated, which meant he couldn't determine what race they belonged to. However, the leader seemed somewhat familiar, not because of his appearance but because of the momentum in his eyes. It carried a hint of disdain, as if looking down on everyone. Who are you? Xiang Beifei asked warily. Humph. Human scum, said the leader arrogantly. Human scum? There's only one race that would use this tone. Giant spirit race. You are Feng. Xiang Beifei said in surprise. He recognized the look in the other's eyes. Back then, to converse with Xiang Beifei, the old giant spirit had taken a sip of Ruishui River to shrink his body. At that time, another person had been cautiously following close to the old giant spirit, never leaving his side. He even held great hostility towards Xiang Beifei when the Yu Divine Steel was taken out. That giant spirit was called Feng. Yes. Feng didn't deny it. He obviously remembered Xiang Beifei. How did you appear here? Xiang Beifei asked in surprise. I thought the Edgecorner airspace doesn't allow the existence of the giant spirit race. It doesn't, so we used special means. Feng looked down, loathing his current body because their true form is thousands, even tens of thousands of meters tall, now forced into a body less than 1.6 meters tall, appearing awkward. Dao Sheath, Li Qianluo explained in a low voice. Just like when I went to the Wild Realm, I had to use a Dao Sheath. The same principle applies to them coming here. No wonder their appearance has changed. Xiang Beifei nodded thoughtfully. This explains why people from the Edgecorner airspace can't go to the Wild Realm. Perhaps there is an ancestral artifact using the heavenly Tao spirit patterns to separate the wild realm from the edge corner airspace, prohibiting crossing boundaries. Someone must be protecting the land of the wild realm. Of course, despite being mutually forbidden, there are methods to disguise themselves and use certain special spirit objects to travel in other ways. For example, when Li Qianluo entered the wild realm, it was with the help of Shun Li creating a Tao sheath for her, while some races forcibly occupy the bodies of their own kind in the wild realm as Tao sheaths. This belongs to a sort of deception of inquiring Tao. Each heavenly Tao restrains each other. Blocking one path doesn't mean all paths are closed. With so many heavenly Tao spirit patterns, some disguise is always possible. However, this method has its flaws. Cultivation is severely suppressed. Alternatively, revealing too powerful cultivation in the wild realm risks being discovered by the heavenly Tao, leading to obliteration. The two giant spirit race members standing in front of him seem to be in this situation. Strange, your cultivation remains in the Ascension realm. Xiaohe scrutinized the two giant spirit race members, then turned to ask, Sister Li, didn't you say using a Tao sheath would lower cultivation? Going from here to there may not be the same as coming from there to here, Li Qianluo explained. Feng snorted coldly and said, To us, there's no difference between both sides, because we don't belong to either side right now. Era interjected, Then what do you belong to? Xiang Beifei said, The giant spirit race should be a race that is forbidden to exist in this world, right? This means the world no longer allows the existence of the giant spirit race. Thus, it makes sense that Xiang Beifei couldn't see the Tao embryo cultivated by the giant spirit race, as their existence is forbidden, and there is no longer the giant spirit Tao in the world. Xiang Beifei can see all the heavenly Tao and simulate them into a system interface. But the premise is that this heavenly Tao exists. However, there's one point he hasn't figured out. He seemingly can't see the Tao cultivated by Li Qianluo either. Feng cannot be simulated into a system interface, so why is it the same with Li Qianluo? She jumps and moves about daily, not appearing like someone banned by the heavenly Tao from existing. Xiang Beifei inadvertently glanced at Li Qianluo. Human scum, your situation isn't much better than ours. Do you think the Tao Palace will allow your race to exist? Feng said disdainfully. Their current situation is very difficult, limited by the heavenly Tao on the wild realm side, and restricted from existing on the edge corner airspace side. They can only live in the small formation of Bone Mountain Desert Stone Cave, surviving in the cracks under the shelter of Seeking Wood. At least our human Tao spirit patterns haven't fallen into the hands of the Tao Palace, Xiang Beifei said. The human race lives with much difficulty, but they haven't lost the human Tao spirit patterns. They only lost the mustard seed in palm, which has now been reclaimed, a blessing in disguise. Feng showed a strange smile and then said, Do you really think your human Tao spirit patterns aren't in the hands of the Tao Palace? Xiang Beifei was slightly stunned. What do you mean by that? The war of 100,000 years ago was won by the Hutu tribe through despicable means. 9 major races, 8 were annihilated. If the human Tao spirit patterns were in your hands, would you live so miserably? Feng said, Are you saying that our human Tao spirit patterns are also in the hands of the Tao Palace? What do you think? But we haven't been wiped out like you. That's only because the ancestral artifact fragment was lost. I think back then the Tao Palace seized your human Tao spirit patterns, but the ancestral artifact sealing the spirit patterns was shattered. You were lucky. The Tao Palace didn't find the broken piece of this ancestral artifact, Feng said. Is this your speculation? Or are you sure? Xiang Beifei asked. This is what our clan leader said. Otherwise, do you think your grandfather came to the Common Valley alone for no reason? Feng said with a smirk. Xiang Beifei's expression became serious. He initially thought, since the human race still lives, the human Tao spirit patterns must be in their own hands. He even believed the human Tao spirit patterns were sealed in Wufeng or the brick because these items originally belonged to Taoist Qingda. But after Feng's words, things didn't seem right. Because if the human Tao spirit patterns were in the hands of the Tao Palace, once the Tao Palace found the ancestral artifact fragment, the human race could be wiped out from this world by the Tao Palace. grandfather and him, both came to the common valley for this purpose. Xiang Beifei suddenly felt a wave of fear. All along, he was unaware of this. It's fortunate that the Litian spear wasn't the ancestral artifact sealing the human Dao spirit patterns. Otherwise, when he made the deal to transform the Litian spear into a complete ancestral artifact, if it was holding the human Dao spirit patterns, then his people could have been wiped out. He now realized the urgency. Finding the fragments of the human Dao spirit patterns before the Dao Palace did is imperative. The Dao Palace took away the human race's human ancestral artifact, which means the destiny of the human race is now in the hands of the Dao Palace. This is absolutely not allowed. Xiang Beifei needs to identify which ancestral artifact has sealed the human divine pattern, and then retrieve it. Even if retrieval is impossible, the fragments must be found, and should not fall into the hands of the Dao Palace. Your giant spirit race does not belong to either side. Why did you come here suddenly this time? Xiang Beifei asked. Feng snorted coldly, then turned his gaze to the huge black water sphere in front. We were suppressed here for countless ages. Why shouldn't we come here? His gaze was sharp, filled with anger and resentment, without any disguise. Was it the Dao Palace that suppressed you? Luo Shanyu asked. It was the Xianming tribe that assisted the Hutu tribe in the suppression, Feng said. Xiaohe asked suspiciously, the Xianming tribe belongs to the aquatic race? Are they in league with the Hutu tribe? But I remember the Xianming tribe has also gone extinct, Luo Shanyu said. Currently in the Edge Corner airspace there is no Xianming race, and even Ruishui River is rare, only visible in Common Valley, hardly existing elsewhere in the Edge Corner airspace. That's because the Hutu tribe stabbed the Xianming tribe in the back, Feng said disdainfully. The Hutu tribe has immense ambition. The Xianming tribe naively thought they could trust them. How laughable! During the wars 10,000 years ago among the 9 major tribes, temporary cooperation may occur, but in race wars, there are never eternal allies. Once objectives are reached, alliances are swiftly broken. The Xianming race was eliminated just like that. Did they use this steel for suppression back then? A faint light flashed in Xiang Beifei's hand, and a simple, unadorned steel appeared. The Yu Divine Steel. Feng's gaze instantly revealed a hint of ferocity, staring intently at the Yu Divine Steel, appearing extremely apprehensive of it. Xiang Beifei was not very surprised by Feng's reaction, merely asking, how could this steel suppress your giant spirit race? Your giant spirit race's cultivation of the giant spirit Dao shouldn't be inside the steel, right? Feng and another companion exchanged glances. Their eyes appeared cold, but they did not directly answer Xiang Beifei's question. However, Xiang Beifei figured it out. I understand now. This Yu Divine Steel must contain some kind of heavenly Dao that specifically restrains your giant spirit race's weakness, correct? You should return the steel to us, Feng said harshly. His body even emanated a strong hostility, directly targeting Xiang Beifei. Return it to you? Xiang Beifei raised an eyebrow slightly. This isn't yours, and I am not your enemy either. I don't need to return it. If the Yu Divine Steel contains a heavenly Dao controlling the human race's weakness, what will you do? Feng said deeply. Indeed. Xiang Beifei nodded slightly. In a reverse situation, if the other party possessed an ancestral artifact restraining the human race's weakness, Xiang Beifei would certainly take it without hesitation. No one wants their vital points controlled by others. A heavenly Dao divine pattern targeting one's own race's weaknesses can only be safely controlled in one's own hands. But Xiang Beifei will not compromise. Your purpose here, I think, is not just to ask for the Yu Divine Steel back, Xiang Beifei said. How do you know we are not? Another giant spirit bellowed deeply. Because Elder Father Pu did not ask me for this steel. If he truly wanted it, he could have taken it back at the Bone Mountain Desert Stone Cave. No need to send you here to find me, Xiang Beifei calmly stated. The old giant spirit is an expert of ancestral Dao realm, completely overpowering Xiang Beifei. Yet when Xiang Beifei displayed the Yu Divine Steel, the old giant spirit did nothing, indicating he is not worried about the steel in Xiang Beifei's possession. The two giant spirits exchanged a glance with unfocused eyes. After a while, they withdrew their hostility. "We'll keep an eye on your steel," Feng said coldly. "Now can you answer, why are you revisiting this place?" Xiang Beifei asked. Feng walked towards Xiang Beifei until reaching the cliff edge, looking at the floating massive Ruishui River, saying, "To retrieve something." "What thing?" "You needn't worry about that, we'll handle it ourselves," Feng replied. But Xiang Beifei looked contemplatively at the Yu divine steel in his hand, and said, "I also need to retrieve something. Perhaps we share a common purpose." "What will you retrieve?" "Fragments of the Yu divine steel." "Fragments of the Yu divine steel? This ancestral artifact is incomplete," Feng asked in surprise. "You didn't know?" Xiang Beifei said. Feng said deeply, "The clan leader never mentioned it." "Then allow me to tell you it is incomplete." Xiang Beifei also turned his gaze to the Ruishui River. The Yu divine steel, unlike the Wufeng brick, has always been a stable ancestral artifact. Even when meeting its kind, it won't come out for battle having a peaceful nature. However, it did react somewhat when the common valley opened. Even after entering, its reaction wasn't as dramatic as Wufeng and the brick. Just arriving here, the Yu divine steel reacted slightly more intensely, but only slightly. Feng pondered for a moment, no longer asking questions, simply signaling to his companion, "Zhai Kong, prepare to enter the water." The other giant spirit nodded slightly, walked to the edge of the cliff, massaging his muscles and bones. "I hate this Dao sheath. In the clan, anyone under 600 feet tall is considered short and crammed into less than 5 feet height." The giant spirit named Zhai Kong said gruffly. 600 zhang is equal to 2,000 meters high, which is considered short in the giant spirit race. Accustomed to towering bodies, becoming 1 meter 6 tall naturally makes them feel quite constrained. "Hate it but have to endure." Feng's body emitted a gray-brown light. Xiang Beifei and Li Qianluo looked at each other. "You want to go into the Ruishui River?" Luo Shanyu asked in surprise. He well knew how terrifying the Ruishui River was. Without reaching the ancestral Dao realm, most could barely withstand its strong corrosive nature. He didn't expect the giant spirits to go in. "Their skin's thick. Ruishui can't corrode them at all," Xiaohe said. The last time they saw the old giant spirit, Father Pu drank a mouthful of Ruishui River to shrink his body, making it easier to communicate with Xiang Beifei. To countless races, the fearsome Ruishui River might just be mouthwash to the giant spirit race. "You have the nerve to talk about others. Isn't your skin thick?" Era grumbled, remembering Xiaohe also diving into the Ruishui River and swimming. Feng and Zhai Kong stretched their muscles. Their skin seemed coated with a gray-brown layer of keratin, glossy as if smeared with an oil film. "We're going down too," Xiang Beifei said. Feng stopped and turned. "You are not afraid of the Ruishui River?" "Our skin's thicker than yours," Xiaohe replied confidently. Luo Shanyu hesitated, whispering to Xiang Beifei, "Are we really going down?" "No worries. The Yu divine steel specifically restrains fanciful features," Xiang Beifei replied. He firmly enveloped everyone with the power of the Yu divine steel, then took a step forward, leaping into the Ruishui River. A powerful corrosive aura rushed towards them, compressing their spiritual power, trying to drag them down. But within the Yu divine steel's range, the aura emanating just got stabilized by the steel instantly. "Wow, their skin is not thinner than mine." Xiaohe turned to look at the two giant spirits. Feng and Zhai Kong seemed to be swimming in the Ruishui River, relaxed. The strong corrosive aura pressed against them, but it got covered by the glossy keratin layer on their skin. Yet, they were still less at ease compared to Xiang Beifei, who moved unhindered in the Ruishui River. Even its mighty force had to give way. They were suppressed here before, surely lived in the water. Even if they couldn't withstand it, they had to endure it, especially having lived for 100,000 years. Xiang Beifei said. They ventured deeper into the Ruishui River, where the light grew dimmer, a dark expanse everywhere, with nothing but water, devoid of life, no aquatic weeds, no floating organisms, Only tough-skinned, thick-fleshed creatures could dwell here. Xiang Beifei followed the direction sensed by the Yu divine steel, but didn't go far before noticing a discrepancy between the direction of the giant spirits and his own. "You are going over there?" Xiang Beifei stopped to ask. "Yes." Feng looked at Xiang Beifei. "And you?" While speaking, they released some bubbles, seemingly unaffected by swallowing Ruishui. Their voices propagated in the water. "I'm going this way." Xiang Beifei pointed to the right. "So we're splitting up?" Zhai Kong asked. "I think it's better not to separate. I'm sure where there are ancestral artifact fragments, there must be Dao Palace people too. Encountering Dao Palace people is not pleasant," Xiang Beifei said. Although he had no ties with Feng, they shared a common enemy, and because of the old giant spirit, these two guys counted as half-allies and could look out for each other. "Rubble hum. Dare come. I'll eat them," Zhai Kong said fiercely. Li Qianluo said, "You all squeezed into these tiny bodies. How can you fight the Dao Palace?" Feng and Zhai Kong exchanged eyes. Indeed, the edge corner airspace didn't allow giant spirit race. Thus they couldn't revert to original form, let alone display true power. "Then follow us," Feng said. "First find the ancestral artifact fragment. Then fetching your stuff wouldn't be overdue," Xiang Beifei said. But at this moment, Luo Shanyu spoke up. "Beifei, I think we should go with them." "Go with them?" "My spirit imprint, left by Taoist Qingda, guided me here. Direction is precisely their side." Luo Shanyu hesitated. "Turns out," Xiang Beifei was quite surprised. "What exactly brought you here?" Xiang Beifei inquired the two giant spirits. "Cannot divulge," Feng simply responded. Xiaohei couldn't bear anymore, discontentedly said, "Why so mysterious?" "We'll see eventually when following you. Besides, Grandpa Feifei saved your giant spirit race back then. What you aim to take surely relates to Grandpa Xiang." Feng furrowed his brows, contemplated for a moment, then said, "It's no harm to tell you. It's the Seeking Woods roots. We need to retrieve them." "You broke Seeking Woods roots? Isn't Seeking Wood an ancestral artifact?" Xiaohei questioned. "Back then, Taoist Qingda saved our entire race. But the situation was dire. We couldn't completely transplant Seeking Wood. Without uprooting entirely, Taoist Qingda helped us protect the roots." Feng said, "We must retrieve Seeking Wood's roots, for Seeking Wood is crucial to us." Zhai Kong said. On the side, Luo Shanyu recalled something. Yes, Seeking Wood. In my memory, Taoist Qingda spoke of it. Soaring branches stretch for thousands, rise to the clouds, cast shadow over the four poles, cover you Yuan below. World ends, nowhere untouchable. What does nowhere untouchable mean? Li Qianluo wondered. Seeking Wood is a very special spiritual artifact, essentially a world tree, covering the whole world. Legend has it that everywhere is within Seeking Wood's shade, growing to the world's end. Luo Shanyu said. World's end. Xiang Beifei paused. Xiaohei also widened his eyes. Master Uncle, how about world's end? Can we walk there using Seeking Wood? Xiang Beifei urgently asked. Should be? I'm not very sure. Master Uncle, think again. How did Grandpa say back then? Has he ever mentioned how to reach the world's end? Xiang Beifei pressed. World's end is just a legend. Why suddenly interested in it? Luo Shanyu asked. Xiang Beifei took a deep breath. Because he went to the world's end. Who? Luo Shanyu asked. Feifei's father, Xiaohei said. Human king. Luo Shanyu couldn't believe it. Xiaohei briefly explained seeing Comrade Xiang Tianqing earlier, leaving Luo Shanyu increasingly astonished. He went to the world's end? How did he go? Luo Shanyu asked. Xiaohei speculated. Probably relying on Seeking Wood? But the Seeking Wood route is still here. Let's check it out first. Xiang Beifei temporarily put down the Yu Divine Steel's fragments, decided to investigate first. The group immediately headed left, wandering about half an hour in the dark Ruishui River, when Feng signaled everyone to halt. Around here, I can feel the root's aura. Feng whispered. Over there. Zhai Kong pointed to another side. In the front's darkness, a stone platform could faintly be seen, floating in the Ruishui River, appearing like a basin with hollow sides, countless roots growing from inside. Found it. Feng invigorated, heading towards the stone platform. But Xiang Beifei suddenly sensed something wrong, pulled Feng, shouting, "Don't go there! Something's off here!" Very keen sense. A hollow voice suddenly echoed around. Extremely piercing. Sound waves vibrated the Ruishui River. Who's there? Zhai Kong bellowed. Yet they had no time to locate the voice's source. Suddenly, Ruishui River made creaking sounds. Upon close inspection, the surrounding Ruishui began rapidly freezing. In just a blink, the entire group was trapped within an ice chamber in the Ruishui River. The Ruishui River suddenly froze without any warning, as if it had been waiting for this moment. But Xiang Beifei didn't react slowly either. He had been vigilant from the start, and the moment the Ruishui froze, he immediately used the Yu Divine Steel to isolate the surrounding Ruishui. The speed of the ice formation was forcibly halted by them. Feng and Zhai Kong evidently didn't anticipate anything happening here, and they came over immediately. Which scum? Zhai Kong let out a low roar, his gaze lighting up with a gray fierce glare, scanning the surroundings. I thought the giant spirit race might come here. A flickering figure appeared ahead, but because a large area of the water was frozen, that figure was blurred, as if distorted. Earth scum. Zhai Kong stared tightly at the person in front, looking furious. Appearing in this place, aside from people from the Dao Palace, it seemed there was no one else. But Feng sniffed, taking a heavy whiff, and frowned, showing a look of disgust in his eyes, saying, "Not earth scum. It's water scum." Water scum? Not earth scum? Zhai Kong asked, puzzled. Yes, water scum. Like insect scum. You're too young to know water scum. It's normal. Water scum. I hate water scum. Fourth most hated. Zhai Kong's eyes suddenly widened with anger. Luo Shanyu and Li Qianluo looked at each other in dismay, with the two giant spirits talking about scum for half the day, making them feel quite strange. Especially when they talked about scum with such seriousness, it appeared extremely comical, yet they both discussed it with straight faces, as if scum was their official language. Xiaohei couldn't help but interject, "Hey, little guy, so what's your third most hated thing?" "Dog scum." "Don't call me little guy. Call me big guy," Zhai Kong shouted at Xiaohei. "You're not big." Xiaohei spread his hands. "I am big. Just can't become big now." Zhai Kong looked insulted and was noticeably irritable. His real height was a few thousand meters. He was only forced to shrink into this small body, and hated being called little guy most. "Are they doing stand-up? What's this water scum? Earth scum?" Era muttered. "They mean this is not someone from the Hutu tribe, but from the Xianming race," Xiang Beifei said in a deep voice. "The giant spirit race is inherently tall, the largest race in this world, bar none, so in their eyes everything else is tiny like scum. They habitually refer to all races with such terms. Water scum can only refer to the Xianming race." Even though Xiang Beifei hadn't seen the other person's true face, he still simulated the other party's cultivation system interface through his ability to perceive chaos origin qi. Controller. Hai Fuyu. Dao embryo. Weak water Dao. Realm. Mid-ancestral Dao realm. Yet another powerful expert in the ancestral Dao realm. Xiang Beifei couldn't help but frown. He thought the Xianming race had been extinct, not expecting there was still such a powerful expert. Feng was also intently staring at the Xianming race expert ahead, his gaze quite unfriendly. "Lapdog of the earth scum." Feng spat. "I don't quite like your wording," Hai Fuyu said as he slowly approached. The direction he advanced in was strange. The surrounding weak water had already frozen, but it seemed to be no obstacle to him. He walked directly on the blocks of black ice. "Your Xianming race dares to be lapdogs for someone, and yet is afraid of others mentioning it?" Feng said coldly. "We are just in a cooperative relationship." Hai Fuyu stopped just when he arrived at this side. With the aid of dim light, everyone could see this guy's true appearance clearly. This was a man with pale skin, very thin like a bamboo pole. For some reason he gave off a slippery feeling. Those thin arms and legs seemed not easy to grab hold of. His appearance was dignified and upright, his face wide and square, but his eyes were blue, like a deep blue lake, and the clothes he wore looked like running water, not fixed but flowing. Cooperation, earth scum and water scum cooperating, and then being exterminated, serves you right, Feng said with disdain. Hai Fuyu squinted his eyes, seeming very displeased with Feng's taunts. But he didn't engage in a war of words with Feng. Instead he turned his gaze to Luo Shanyu. Human race, Hai Fuyu said in surprise. Then he looked at Xiang Beifei and Li Qianluo, frowning slightly. Where are you two from? Hai Fuyu asked. What do you think? Xiang Beifei's body lit up with bolts of lightning. Thunder Dao race. Hai Fuyu focused on the flickering lightning on Xiang Beifei's body, growing wary. You're the heavenly thunder venerable. But soon he denied it, shaking his head to himself. No, the heavenly thunder venerable's aura isn't like this. Did you kill him and devour his power? Idiot. Zhai Kong rudely spoke out. It didn't surprise Xiang Beifei that Hai Fuyu recognized the heavenly thunder venerable. You're here for the roots of seeking wood. Shall we make a deal? Hai Fuyu said slowly. Zhai Kong said irritably. Nothing to do with water scum. Get lost. He seemed unwilling to wait any longer. Ad muscles instantly swelled like hard rocks. He punched forward. Boom! Zhai Kong's not-so-tall body contained power disproportionate to his size. With one punch, it was like a mountain crashing down, smashing the frozen black ice before him. Crack, crack, crack. The weak water ice couldn't withstand that punch at all. Numerous cracks appeared, and the force dispersed with him as the center, scattering the weak water within a 100-meter radius, with no way to withstand that punch. Whoosh! As the violent gusts of the fists roared sharply, they instantly reached before Hai Fuyu's eyes. Zhai Kong moved too fast. Although his stature wasn't tall, his strength seemed hardly suppressed. Hai Fuyu did not dodge, allowing Zhai Kong's fist to land on his body. With a splash sound, Zhai Kong's fist directly plunged into Hai Fuyu's body and emerged from behind his head. The terrifying punch landed on Hai Fuyu's body without causing any ripples. Hai Fuyu's body was like a pool of water, not hindering the opponent at all. Zhai Kong swung his fist downward, tearing Hai Fuyu's body open. But by the time he retrieved his fist, Hai Fuyu's body had returned to normal, appearing undamaged. You damned water scum! Zhai Kong shouted furiously, swinging his violent fist again, instantly firing thousands of punches towards Hai Fuyu's body, each punch extremely terrifying, enough to obliterate a city. No matter how Zhai Kong bombarded him, Hai Fuyu didn't evade. His body was completely shattered by the powerful fist wind. But when Zhai Kong stopped, he still appeared unaffected, his body restored again, seemingly without effort. You don't need to fight me. You're simply not my match. Hai Fuyu smiled faintly. His body was too uncanny, with too much water, very adaptable. Don't underestimate people. Zhai Kong roared angrily, his fist instantly coated with a layer of dark brown light. Spiritual power was fiercely compressed within, and he punched out again. Upon hitting Hai Fuyu's entire body was directly shattered by this punch, but soon reassembled. All right, let's see if your ancestral Dao realm power can pose some threat to me. Hai Fuyu lightly waved. Instantly the Ruishui River rolled, enveloping Zhai Kong's body, effortlessly flinging him away. Just as Zhai Kong's body flew out, it was frozen by the Ruishui River. At this moment, Feng also made a move, his strength evidently stronger than Zhai Kong's. With one punch, he smashed the ice over 10 miles around, rescuing Zhai Kong from the ice. The two giant spirits immediately joined forces, collectively bombarding Hai Fuyu. Their combined power was too violent, each punch stacking on the previous, pushing back the Ruishui River, creating a vacuum zone around them. Their fists stirred up violent gusts, preventing the Ruishui River from approaching. The giant spirit race's inherent power was strong, their thick and tough skin, and the Ruishui River's erosion was nothing to them. Their fighting relied on brute force. Seems like I'll have to deal with both of you first. Hai Fuyu shook his head slightly, his sapphire eyes brightened, and all the Ruishui River seemed to come alive, constantly forming massive whirlpools. These whirlpools moved in extremely strange directions, rapidly devouring the gusts created by the two giant spirits' fists, enveloping the power of the fists, guiding it with the whirlpools, converting it to their own, growing larger, stronger. Swish! Swish! The force generated by the whirlpools swept towards Zhai Kong and Feng, engulfing them. Splash! Feng and Zhai Kong were helplessly sucked into the whirlpools, their bodies uncontrollably swirling along with the whirlpools. They roared, wanting to shatter the whirlpools, but the whirlpools were always able to appropriately absorb their strength, countering them. You should join too. Then we can discuss the deal. Hai Fuyu waved his hand. These whirlpools swept towards Xiang Beifei's side, clearly intending to suppress those on this side as well. Whoosh! Whoosh! Around Xiang Beifei, the Ruishui River also began to coil, enclosing them. The formidable force pressed towards Xiang Beifei, intending to subdue all of them. However, Xiang Beifei remained expressionless, merely gripping the Yu Divine Steel, shaking it slightly. Buzz! All the raging whirlpools halted under the control of the Yu Divine Steel. Under its pressure, the Ruishui River lost all will to resist, obediently staying in place. Yu Divine Steel! Hai Fuyu displayed a startled expression, staring intently at Xiang Beifei with a trace of fear on his face. The Yu Divine Steel seals the divine patterns that restrain the Ruishui River. Of course, it's the Yu Divine Steel, you water scum. The whirlpools around Zhai Kong and Feng also stopped, and they rushed out from the whirlpools, furiously attacking Hai Fuyu once again. This time, Hai Fuyu dared not to take it head-on. Although his body could turn into water and his strength was far superior to Feng and Zhai Kong, in front of the Yu Divine Steel, even he didn't dare to underestimate it, withdrawing immediately. I just want to make a deal, Hai Fuyu said in a deep voice. A deal? Your Shenming race allied with the Hutu tribe to persecute us, and you want to make a deal? You might as well dream on. Feng coldly shouted. All right, you two stop for now, Xiang Beifei said to Feng and Zhai Kong. Impossible. We and the water scum must fight to the death, Zhai Kong shouted loudly. No rush. This guy seems to be trapped here too. You might not even be able to kill him. Recklessly charging has no meaning, Xiang Beifei calmly said. He's trapped here. Feng frowned. Hai Fuyu smiled slightly. You don't seem to be from the Thunder Dao race. That's strange. What race do you belong to? What race I belong to is none of your concern. Just tell me about the deal, Xiang Beifei said. Help me get out, and let me personally destroy the Hutu tribe, Hai Fuyu replied. Feng and Zhai Kong exchanged a glance. You want to destroy the Earth Scum? Aren't you in league with the Earth Scum? We have never been in league with them, Hai Fuyu stated. 100,000 years ago, you assisted them in suppressing us. Feng growled. Do you think we would be foolish enough to help the Hutu tribe? Hai Fuyu sneered. We have been trapped in your Ruishui River for 100,000 years, Feng said. How are we any different? Hai Fuyu replied. What do you mean by that? Feng shouted. What trapped you wasn't our Ruishui River, but this ancestral artifact right in front of you. Hai Fuyu stared at the Yu Divine Steel. But you are accomplices. You are mistaken. The Yu Divine Steel not only seals the heavenly Dao divine patterns restraining your giant spirit race, but also seals the heavenly Dao divine patterns restraining our weak water Dao. Our race was first completely annihilated by the ancestral artifact, and then they relied on the ancestral artifact to control our abilities to suppress you. You've got the sequence wrong. Hai Fuyu then looked at Xiang Beifei. This person possesses the Yu Divine Steel, yet you don't trouble him and instead come for me. That's truly strange. Feng and Zhai Kong glanced at Xiang Beifei, then quickly turned their heads back, shouting, Don't tell us how to do things. You claim your race has been massacred, but you're still alive. Why don't you ask this person with the Yu divine steel if I look like someone living well? Hai Fuyu retorted. Xiang Beifei's eyes flickered slightly. What Hai Fuyu said was true. He seemed to be restricted by something here, able to control the Ruishui River but unable to leave, not even being able to leave this area. They exterminated your race, so why are you still alive? Xiang Beifei asked. I was lucky, Hai Fuyu said. Feng coldly shouted from the side. Luck can't evade the extermination by the heavenly Tao. Luck indeed can, Hai Fuyu replied unhurriedly. Xiaohe realized something and said, Do you hold the heavenly Tao divine pattern of luck? The ancestral artifact can indeed annihilate a race, but it's not absolute because there would be other heavenly Tao divine patterns interfering. Yes and no, Hai Fuyu replied. Do you think I would believe you? Feng shouted. Then ask Father Pu why. Even though the Tao Palace annihilated your giant spirit Tao, you are able to survive? Hai Fuyu said. Feng's expression flickered for a moment, then he changed his tone. None of your damn business. Our race was annihilated till only I remain. At least you can move freely. You're much better off than me. We all have a mutual enemy. Why fight among ourselves? Hai Fuyu said. Hai Fuyu's words didn't fully convince the two giant spirits, because they still harbored a deep hatred for the bitter sea. Feng, with an angry expression, said, Believe your nonsense? Dream on. Whether you believe it or not is irrelevant. I'm more interested in his opinion. Hai Fuyu looked at Xiang Beifei, at the power of thunder surrounding him, and then at his Yu divine steel. After pondering for a moment, he suddenly exclaimed, I know who you are. You're not from the Thunder Tao race. You're human race. You can even tell that? Xiaohe asked in confusion. There's an aura about you that I'm very familiar with, right? It's Wu Feng's aura. You're a descendant of Wu Feng. I can't be sure if you're his son or grandson, but my perception doesn't lie, Hai Fuyu said. Xiang Beifei was silent for a moment, then asked, You knew Wu Feng? He came here once. Although I was in a deep sleep then, the Yu divine steel was taken away. When he helped the giant spirit race leave this place, I woke up. Speaking of which, I must thank Wu Feng. Without him taking the Yu divine steel, I might have slept forever, Hai Fuyu said calmly. Stop trying to cozy up, Zhai Kong said through gritted teeth. I know you came here for the root of seeking wood and the fragments of the Yu divine steel, but unfortunately, I have no cards left, Hai Fuyu said regretfully. Xiang Beifei frowned. This doesn't sound like something someone looking to make a deal would say. Normally, people wouldn't reveal they have no cards to play. They'd at least leave themselves some leeway. Even if they had no backup, they should pretend to have one, at least for show. If you didn't have the Yu divine steel, then my Ruishui River could still trap the root of seeking wood, and we could negotiate properly. But since you have the Yu divine steel, I no longer have chips to trade with you. Seeking pointless discomfort is meaningless. I don't like doing meaningless things. Hai Fuyu was very straightforward. So you're just giving up like that? Xiaohe asked in confusion. What else could I do? The heavenly Tao laws sealed within the Yu divine steel are not to be taken lightly. And I believe the giant spirit race understands that, Hai Fuyu said, giving a meaningful look at Feng and Zhai Kong. The two giant spirits glared at him angrily. Xiang Beifei evaluated Hai Fuyu and considered his words but didn't fully trust him either. After a while, he waved his hand, causing the surrounding Ruishui River to surge and split to the sides. He quickly reached the stone platform and looked at the root of seeking wood. Soon he felt the presence of a strange power. It was enveloped in a very strong formation, with formation patterns swirling around, quite unique, and not much different from the patterns on a blood altar. Buzz! A force gently rippled, emitting a faint glow that quickly vanished. It was the power of the ancestral Tao realm. Taoist Qingda. It's really him. Luo Shanyu recognized these formations, took a deep breath, and couldn't hide his excitement in his voice. Xiang Beifei carefully observed these formations, discovering that his grandfather had protected the root of seeking wood very securely, linking it completely with the severed root of seeking wood. It was impossible for a normal person to take away seeking wood. He cautiously reached out to touch it, but was quickly met with a repelling force that bounced his hand away. "This is quite securely protected," Xiang Beifei said. "Let me try." Zhai Kong gave Hai Fuyu a warning glance, then walked over, shouted loudly, and swung his fist, which instantly filled with brown light. He punched out. Boom! The formation on the stone platform rotated, emitting a cyan light that directly bounced Zhai Kong's force back. Trash! Zhai Kong was sent flying backward. Hai Fuyu calmly stood aside, crossing his hands in front of him, saying, "Brute force can't break this restraint." "Stop talking nonsense," Zhai Kong said angrily, rolling up his sleeves and rubbing his fist. This time he gathered all his might, with a punch imbued with terrifying power, as if it could tear through the void. Boom! His fist landed. The formation remained unscathed, and Zhai Kong was sent flying back again. "I don't believe it." Zhai Kong swore and stabilized himself again, then threw out another punch, and was sent flying back again. After about 10 punches and being sent flying 10 times, Zhai Kong stopped and said, "Surely it's because I'm not big enough." The giant spirit race was like this, with thick skin and immense strength, relying on brute force. They always believed there was nothing that couldn't be solved with one punch. If there was, then 2 punches. But unfortunately, in the face of such a strange formation, he was still eating crow. Such a fool. Hai Fuyu shook his head and said. He was very familiar with the personality of the giant spirit race, but there was no way to stop them now. Let them throw their punches as they pleased. Xiaohei asked in confusion, "By the way, when the old giant spirit sent you 2 over, didn't he tell you how to break this formation?" Feng was silent for a moment, then said, "He said we would receive help." Li Qianluo curiously said, "Receive help? From whom? Can he foresee the future?" Feng and Zhai Kong both turned their eyes to Xiang Beifei. "At first, we weren't sure what the help would be, but I think the help is definitely you," Zhai Kong said, pointing at Xiang Beifei. "Why?" "Because the clan leader said that when we see you, we must protect you. Though I feel like you don't even need our protection," Zhai Kong shrugged. Xiang Beifei found it strange that the old giant spirit was so sure he would come to this place. "Is it because I would definitely come to look for the Yu divine steel?" That old giant spirit really had foresight. Feng inquired, "You're the grandson of Taoist Qingde. Is there a way to break through this?" "My grandpa didn't specifically leave this for me to solve." Xiang Beifei shook his head. He was too familiar with the formation within. Its complex and exquisite structure was far beyond what brute force could solve. "How could that be possible?" "The clan leader's mention of assistance must be referring to you," Zhai Kong said unwillingly. Xiang Beifei thought of something and asked, "Uncle, could you give it a try?" Luo Shanyu said uncertainly, "Me? You can't do it. How could I manage it?" "Didn't Uncle bring us here?" Xiang Beifei said. Xiaohei's eyes lit up. "That's right. Uncle Luo might be able to pull it off. Maybe Grandpa Xiang left something here." Luo Shanyu hesitated. "I don't know the exact method. Taoist Qingde gave no hints. Perhaps no hints are needed. The spirit imprint is the key," Xiang Beifei said. Luo Shanyu nodded slightly. "All right, let me try." He walked forward, slowly stretched out his hand and touched the stone platform, without needing to do anything. The imprint on his spirit resonated with the formation here, and then his entire spirit lit up with a brilliant red light. Buzz! The formation's patterns connected to his spirit, and Luo Shanyu's entire being seemed to be instantly filled with powerful spiritual power. A surging aura engulfed him. His spirit instantly ascended to the ancestral Tao realm. This! Luo Shanyu was extremely shocked looking at the power on his body that did not belong to him. Although this power far exceeded his imagination, it also gave him an unprecedented experience. Such powerful strength! Luo Shanyu looked at his fists with surprise. Crack! All the power of the formation flowed into Luo Shanyu's body. A root of seeking would also grew from the formation, but its bottom root was clearly connected to the Ruishui River, as if it were bound by it. The roots of seeking would use the Ruishui River as a source, I was planning on using this as a bargaining chip. Hai Fuyu looked rather helplessly at the roots of Seeking Wood, as if he didn't want to embarrass himself. He snapped his fingers and the binding of the Ruishui River immediately dispersed. He knew that even if he didn't disperse it, he would have no chance of resisting in the face of the Yu Divine Steel, so he might as well be straightforward. Seeking Wood. Feng and Zhai Kong both perked up, hurriedly rushing over to grasp the root firmly in their hands. Although Seeking Wood is an ancestral artifact, this root is just a fragment, not having much power. It wouldn't react with other ancestral artifacts. Successfully obtaining Seeking Wood's root made Feng and Zhai Kong extremely excited. With this, their task was considered complete. On the other side, the power within Luo Shanyu also gradually subsided. His spirit once again disappeared within his body, but his expression was evidently peculiar. "Uncle, what's wrong?" Xiang Beifei asked. "The power of Taoist Qingde was not left for me, but for you," Luo Shanyu said. "I don't have the corresponding perception for this power. It doesn't seem like it was meant for me," Xiang Beifei said. Luo Shanyu said, "No, Taoist Qingde was well aware that I would come here. He seemed to consider that your spirit wasn't strong enough to bear this power, so he arranged everything using my spirit as a guide. The imprints on my spirit were meant to endure this power. The strangest thing is..." He felt the imprints on his spirit again, his face becoming slightly solemn, a hint of peculiarity in his eyes. He said, "Anyway, I need to transfer this power to you as soon as possible." Xiang Beifei pondered for a moment, shook his head and said, "No need, Uncle. Keep it for now. We still have tasks to complete. And with Uncle's temporary ancestral Dao realm strength, it's more convenient." Luo Shanyu wanted to say something more, but remembering they were still in the Common Valley, which was not a safe place, he said, "All right, when there's an opportunity, I'll transfer it to you. We should go find the fragments of the Yu Divine Steel," Li Qianluo said. "All right, let's go. It's our turn to help you," Zhai Kong said, unusually generous. His attitude towards Xiang Beifei and the others had improved significantly. Why bother looking for the fragments of the Yu Divine Steel? It's unnecessary to make it so complicated. Hai Fuyu waved his hand casually. Whoosh! All around, the Ruishui River surged up, forming circle after circle of ripples. Then a wave of air was stirred up within, as if something was swiftly shuttling through the Ruishui River. Swish! A stone fell in front of Xiang Beifei. This stone was square, about 3 feet long, with a groove in the middle, looking more like the base of the Yu Divine Steel, perfectly compatible with the Yu Divine Steel. Xiang Beifei raised an eyebrow. He hadn't expected finding the fragment of the Yu Divine Steel to be so easy this time. He didn't even need to search for it himself or fight for it. It was directly handed to him. Xiaohei looked at Hai Fuyu suspiciously and said, "What sort of plot are you up to? Like a weasel wishing the chicken a happy new year? Even I can't defeat the Yu Divine Steel. It's more convenient to make it simple. Consider it a sign of my sincerity," Hai Fuyu said. "Humph, don't think by taking the initiative with these things we'll trust you. Xiang Zatza. Ignore him. Let this guy rot in the Common Valley," Zhai Kong said. Xiang Beifei took the base of the Yu Divine Steel, carefully perceiving it, and found it indeed left no traces of spiritual power or hidden consciousness, nor any other traps, clean and pure. The Yu Divine Steel in his hand also began to tremble slightly, as if slightly excited to have found its base. But it was only mildly exciting. The Yu Divine Steel was always very serene, with a good temper, and didn't lose its composure because it found its fragment. Unlike the Lytian spear, which, when it found its fragment, was so agitated it was practically flipping the sky. Xiang Beifei did not rush to make the Yu Divine Steel and the base merge. He just felt it was a bit strange. "No, it shouldn't be," Xiang Beifei said. "What shouldn't be?" Hai Fuyu asked. "The Common Valley, ancestral artifact fragments. This place should ideally be watched over by a master from the Hutu tribe," Xiang Beifei calmly said. The purpose of the Dao Palace allowing all races in was to hope that some races would bring in ancestral artifact fragments, so they could seize complete ancestral artifacts. Whether it was the large blade ancestral artifact just now or the side of the Heavenly Thunder Venerable, Strong ancestral Dao realm experts lurked here, waiting like hunters. Logically speaking, such a vast Ruishui River region cannot be overlooked by the Dao Palace. Haifuyu lightly smiled and said, "You mean this guy?" He waved his hand again. Whoosh! A pitch-black wave of Ruishui River surged up, bringing a person before them. This person wore a black robe, but was already on the verge of death, trapped in the Ruishui ice prison, with his entire spirit captured and pinned by black water ice spikes, unable to resist. Bai Fei was slightly startled as he looked at him. Enforcer, Wu Dian, Dao Embryo, Huda Dao, Realm, Early Ancestral Dao. Did you really capture an expert of the Hutu tribe? Zhai Kong also furrowed his brows at the guy, a solemn look with deadly intent in his eyes. If the Hutu tribe wanted to lie in wait, they should have sent someone even better, Haifuyu said. Haifuyu smiled politely at Xiang Beifei. I also can't fight the heavenly Dao divine pattern inside the Yu divine steel, so I might as well make things simple. Think of it as a token of my sincerity. This point is indeed true. His cultivation and realm far surpass the elders of Dao Palace. Mid-stage ancestral Dao realm, his strength has already transcended the ordinary. An early-stage ancestral Dao realm elder from Dao Palace is no match for him at all. Feng said, "Since you're so formidable, why can't you leave here? The Ruishui River here is my body. Strictly speaking, you all," Haifuyu glanced meaningfully at everyone, "are inside my body." This statement made everyone frown. This is your body? Your body is composed of the Ruishui River, Luo Shanyu asked. I am the last generation of Gonggong. What do you think? Haifuyu replied. Gonggong, a title of the king of the Shenming tribe like Jumong and Rushu. Every tribal leader has their own title. It is said that the original leader of the Shenming tribe was a god called Gonggong. After this god disappeared, the successors to the throne called themselves Gonggong, to show respect and to pass down the prestige of their ancestors, intimidating others. Then why don't you leave here? Xiaohei asked. I survived from the hands of the Hutu tribe relying on my special abilities. My body transformed into the bitter sea. But when I awoke, my body had already been bound by the power of the common valley, unable to leave here. Do you think I can take you away? Xiang Beifei said. You can consider me as a heavenly Dao pattern, needing to rely on an ancestor artifact to leave. Haifuyu said. You want me to use an ancestor artifact to devour you? Attachment does not mean devouring. My state is very strange. The reason why Dao Palace suppressed me here originally was that the Ruishui River could temporarily suppress the power and size of the giant spirit. Dao Palace has already made the world devoid of the giant spirit race, indicating they have the ability to annihilate the giant spirit race. Why would they choose such a method of suppression? Xiang Beifei asked. Because initially, the heavenly Dao pattern of the giant spirit race had not yet fallen into the hands of Dao Palace. But the giant spirit's defense was very strong, especially Father Pu, whose defense and strength were the strongest I've seen. Aside from heavenly Dao patterns related to the giant spirit race, nothing could annihilate him. He protected his race. Dao Palace couldn't annihilate him. So they temporarily used our Shenming tribe's heavenly Dao formation patterns in conjunction with the Yu divine steel to suppress him. Haifuyu paused, then said, As for now, there's no more giant spirit Dao. I think Dao Palace probably found the heavenly Dao pattern later, but by then, the giant spirit race had been saved. I think the giant spirit used some heavenly Dao pattern to survive in the margins. As for me, I was lucky, having been bound by the power of Common Valley. They couldn't do anything to me. Finally, he added, Of course, I can't do anything about myself either. Stop pretending to be pitiable. Don't think we will fall for it. Xiang Zatsa. Kill him, Zhai Kong said. But Haifuyu didn't pay attention to Zhai Kong, only looked at Xiang Beifei, throwing over the weak Dao Palace's ancestral Dao realm expert, and said, I captured this guy originally to use as a bargaining chip to negotiate with Dao Palace. But now it's not needed anymore. You can kill him as you please. If you think it's a ruse, don't you think the cost of this ruse is too high? An ancestral Dao realm expert. If it were an ascending Dao stage expert, perhaps Dao Palace might abandon them, but an ancestral Dao realm expert is a pillar of Dao Palace, and Dao Palace wouldn't choose to do such a thing. It doesn't matter anymore. Just slaughter him. Xiaohe rubbed his fists, looking at the trapped Dao Palace's ancestral Dao realm expert. In Xiaohe's eyes, this was a shining spiritual power crystal of the initial stage of ancestral Dao. Feng coldly shouted, "Don't think I don't know, this guy can't be killed at all. Dao Palace acquired the resurrection pattern long ago. They can't be killed. If killed, they will resurrect." Xiaohe turned to ask, "Right, Feifei, I forgot about this matter. I remember when we were in Kongcheng, Uncle Melancholy said Wu Yanwei wasn't dead. Could it be that earlier, Wu Duankong also wasn't dead? Isn't the resurrection pattern in the heavenly spear?" Li Qianluo asked. "It seems so," Xiang Beifei said. The heavenly spear just now had been broken by Xiang Tianxing, because this ancestor artifact was very powerful, even more powerful than him. Xiang Beifei didn't immediately restore it, otherwise he couldn't control the heavenly spear. Of course, resurrection also requires a significant price, and even an ancestral Dao realm expert takes 1,000 years to fully recover to their peak. But at this time, the original spirit nailed by Hai Fuyu's ice spike, the Dao Palace ancestral Dao realm expert Wu Dian, suddenly opened his eyes, emitting a weak voice. "If you think we don't have a backup plan after one incident with the heavenly spear, then you're too naive." Even though he was already on the verge of death, a trace of venomous mocking still hung at the corner of his mouth. Xiang Beifei frowned. "If you mean this, then you've miscalculated." Xiaohe took out half of the heavenly spear and lightly tapped on the spear's body. Wu Dian's expression froze, but he still sneered. "The resurrection pattern is no longer in the heavenly spear. The last time the heavenly spear was restored to its full form, Earth God had already removed the most core heavenly Dao patterns from the heavenly spear, the resurrection pattern naturally included, and Earth God is above us all, you can't kill any of us. The resurrection pattern is not in the heavenly spear?" Xiang Beifei hadn't anticipated this. Luo Shanyu said quietly, "Beifei, if that's the case, we're in trouble. They can resurrect infinitely, and it's very hard for us to win. They can't kill the people of Dao Palace, but Dao Palace's people can kill them. Such a one-sided advantage is very disadvantageous for them. Something's wrong." At this moment, Hai Fuyu shook his head and said, "What's wrong?" Xiang Beifei asked. "Although I'm trapped here in Common Valley and unable to move, I'm not sitting around waiting for death. I belong to a special heavenly Dao glyph. When another heavenly Dao glyph is active, I can sense it. A powerful mid-ancestral Dao realm expert was killed 1,000 miles away. It was a true death." Hai Fuyu said. "What do you mean by a true death?" Xiang Beifei said. "To put it simply, when he died, it was as if he was completely erased. Even the heavenly Dao glyph could not bring him back. Some powers are not weaker than the resurrection glyph." Hai Fuyu stroked his chin, seemingly pondering how to explain, then continued. "There are many heavenly Dao laws in the world. The eradication by heavenly Dao laws isn't necessarily a true death, and the resurrection by heavenly Dao laws is not necessarily a true resurrection. Many heavenly Dao laws can cancel each other out. The resurrection glyph may also be nullified by more special heavenly Dao glyphs. There is a heavenly Dao glyph here in Common Valley called Forbidden to Live, which you can understand as a prohibition against living." He said this looking at Xiang Beifei and said, "Just now, I clearly sensed the prohibition of resurrection heavenly Dao law taking effect, and then this law disappeared. Was it you who killed that mid-ancestral Dao realm expert from the Hutu tribe? So what if it was? You used the prohibition of resurrection heavenly Dao law to kill him. Didn't you know that?" Hai Fuyu asked curiously. Xiang Beifei was slightly surprised. In fact, Wu Duankong wasn't killed by him, but rather by the power left by Xiang Tianxing on the brick. However, Wu Duankong didn't revive, which means that on the brick, there is a heavenly Dao glyph that prohibits resurrection. He took out 4 bricks, sensing them. As soon as the 4 bricks appeared, they quickly showed hostility towards Hai Fuyu. Hai Fuyu also belonged to a special heavenly Dao glyph. But Hai Fuyu didn't care. Staring at the bricks, he said, "Sure enough, it's this ancestral artifact. 5 pieces of stone. That powerful guy. Who? For years ago, a very powerful guy forcibly broke into Common Valley. At that time, the valley was actually closed, and I don't know how he managed to get in, causing a huge commotion. Many ancestral artifacts were startled, but he quickly left." Hai Fuyu said. Xiang Beifei held the brick, sensing the aura on it, and quickly discovered a complete heavenly Tao law. Forbidden to live. This guy left the forbidden to live law for me? Xiang Beifei recalled Xiang Tianxing's appearance, letting out a soft hum. But at least this solves the trouble brought by the resurrection glyph. Try killing him if you dare. Hai Fuyu pointed at Wu Dian. Wu Dian also felt something was wrong at this moment. He shouted fiercely, "You can't kill me. When I resurrect, I will tear you all apart. Let's see if you can come back." Xiang Beifei hesitated, not lifting his hand. The forbidden to live glyph on the brick lit up. This glyph covered him, and then the black and white flames merged into it, igniting the opponent's soul. Ah! Wu Dian let out a piercing scream, his soul unable to resist at all. As expected, Hai Fuyu looked up at the aura swirling around Wu Dian, saying, "Did you sense it? That is the resurrection glyph?" He had the mark of resurrection on him, but it wasn't successful. Strange. An unseen aura swept towards Wu Dian, weak enough that Xiang Beifei wouldn't have noticed it without Hai Fuyu's reminder. But this aura didn't take effect, as it was suddenly scorched away by Xiang Beifei's black and white flames. The forbidden to live glyph didn't even have to come into play. Hai Fuyu looked at the black and white flames on Xiang Beifei in surprise, saying, "These flames, are they burning sun and scorching shadow? You recognize this? Looks like I've underestimated you." Hai Fuyu's gaze became somewhat strange, a hint of dread in his eyes. Wu Dian had been completely turned into a spiritual power crystal by Xiang Beifei's flames, which Xiaohe collected. He then said, "By the way, they have a resurrection glyph. Doesn't that mean the elders of Dao Palace that we killed before will all revive? Last time they had killed quite a few Dao Palace elders of the Inquiring Dao and Ascending Dao stages. If these people could revive, it would be exhausting. If you used Burning Sun and Scorching Shadow to kill them, then they won't." Hai Fuyu said. "Why? Burning Sun and Scorching Shadow are also a very special type of heavenly Dao glyph, a means of complete eradication. I didn't expect you to have this. A very impressive ability. 50,000 years ago I saw it. Unforgettable." Hai Fuyu seemed to be reminiscing about something, praising him unwittingly, and finally said, "It's a pity your power is insufficient. Far from that person 50,000 years ago." Xiang Beifei asked, "Who was that person?" "I don't know him. I only know he was called Chun Morin, an odd character no one dared to mess with. 50,000 years ago in Edge Corner airspace, he stirred everything into chaos. Later, he disappeared for unknown reasons. Everyone said he was killed by some powerful heavenly Dao law, but I don't think he died. No one could kill such a person." Hai Fuyu's evaluation of this person was extremely high. After a while, he said, "Chun Morin. He killed simply with black and white flames. Terrifying flames, at least 1,000 times more powerful than yours. Unstoppable for anyone. You're lucky to have obtained his legacy." Chun Morin. Xiang Beifei frowned. He had never heard of such a character existing. Burning Sun and Scorching Shadow were taught to him by Taoist Qingyang, but he didn't know how Taoist Qingyang came to possess them. Xiang Beifei didn't think much of it. Since those killed by Burning Sun and Scorching Shadow couldn't revive, things would be easier. Currently, Xiang Beifei already had 2 ancestral Dao realm spiritual power crystals, which was a good omen. "So, can you take me away?" Hai Fuyu asked. After dealing with Wu Dian, Xiang Beifei reconsidered Hai Fuyu, weighing the matter. Beside him, Zhai Kong spoke urgently. "Xiang Zatsa, you're not seriously considering saying yes, are you? The enemy of my enemy can be an ally," Xiang Beifei said. He was also pondering how to deal with the Dao Palace. This power was too overwhelmingly strong, and what was exposed was just the tip of the iceberg. The true number of strong ones was innumerable, and relying only on the human race, it would be difficult to contend. He needed allies. The giant spirit race could count as an ally, though they couldn't walk freely between the two worlds, they could rely on another way. Hai Fuyu as Gonggong was also very powerful. The Xianming clan had been wiped out except for him, and he naturally wouldn't let go of such deep hatred, worth considering. But Zhai Kong wanted to say something, but Feng gestured for him not to, signaling him to stop. I will take you, but you should also understand what you are supposed to do about it. Xiang Beifei said. If I'm alive, at least the Xianming clan will not invade the human race anymore. Hai Fuyu smiled indifferently. After a while, he said, I am taking you away, but you should know that you should do what is needed. Xiang Beifei said, I don't dare guarantee anything, but I can at least say that while I'm alive, I won't betray the alliance, and with the Yu Divine Steel you'll see, it's not likely I would go back on it. Hai Fuyu said with calmness. All right. Xiang Beifei took the Yu Divine Steel and the base, and the glyphs on it seemed to come alive, appearing very special. The Yu Divine Steel and the base were as calm as ever, and even when restored to completeness, it didn't create a world-shaking sensation. Instead, it was symbolically restored, an ancestral artifact truly indifferent to worldly affairs. Xiang Beifei felt quite helpless, as the Yu Divine Steel was too gentle, sometimes making him think it wasn't suited for battle. But this was a good thing, as it prevented any greater disturbances. Yet, in the end, the Yu Divine Steel was quite powerful. He could vaguely perceive the strength contained within it. Although not a complete ancestral artifact, its capabilities were not extensive, mainly used to suppress things like the Ruishui River. However, after the Yu Divine Steel combined with its pedestal, the power inside it became increasingly immense, and the aura it exuded was even stronger than Xiang Beifei's. This steel truly hid its strength well. Fortunately, the Yu Divine Steel, although more powerful than Xiang Beifei at present, did not supersede its master role and remained quiet, exuding a sense of warmth and friendliness. Who wouldn't love a gentle and composed entity? Hai Fuyu, seeing the Yu Divine Steel restored to its completeness, didn't hesitate and emitted a blue stream of light from his body. This light gradually condensed in the air, forming a divine mark, and merged into the Yu Divine Steel. The 77 divine marks on the Yu Divine Steel transformed into 78. Yet Hai Fuyu didn't disappear. Clearly, his strength remained formidable, existing in a unique form externally, representing the heavenly Tao divine mark and himself. However, with Xiang Beifei wielding the Yu Divine Steel, he clearly perceived a connection formed between him and Hai Fuyu through the steel, allowing him to completely suppress Hai Fuyu if needed. With this thought, he was slightly relieved. Wish! The surrounding weak water began to swarm toward Hai Fuyu, merging into his spirit. The vast weak water sea area surged toward him, akin to a whale's inhalation, devouring all the weak water. This spectacle was truly magnificent, given the vastness of this water area. Although it floated in the air, it spanned at least tens of thousands of square kilometers. Yet, all this weak water was drawn into Hai Fuyu's body. Or rather, they constituted Hai Fuyu's body. For these weak waters, after all, were originally transformed from his body. In a moment, the weak water had completely vanished, leaving the surroundings vacant, forming a vast basin, with its deepest part reaching tens of thousands of meters beneath, barren and only patches of dried earth in sight. Hai Fuyu stretched slightly, extending his arms, feeling reborn. His hands no longer appeared frail. On the contrary, after absorbing all the weak water, his body became much sturdier. The breath of freedom. He couldn't help but let out a low growl. Buzz! A potent aura instantly swept out from him as the center. However, this aura didn't roll far. It only extended a mere dozen meters before retracting in the blink of an eye. Now is not the time to howl at the sky. Hai Fuyu smiled faintly, fully controlling his powers at will. After all, being an ancient being who lived for countless years, he knew what to do and what not to do, exercising restraint in his actions. It's time to hunt. He stretched, flexing his muscles. Hunt. Xiang Beifei raised an eyebrow. Why not? They are allowed to lie in wait at each spiritual artifact's location, but we can't actively hunt them to catch them off guard. Hai Fuyu inquired. The Dao Palace, to ensure the ancestral artifact shards were brought, chose to hide near each broken ancestral artifact, ready to snatch it once the artifact was completed. Xiaohe clenched his right fist, tapping it on his left palm, then extended his thumb and index finger, pointing at Hai Fuyu, winking and grinning. I'm starting to appreciate you. I've been trapped here in the Common Valley for many years. Though I couldn't act, I'm very familiar with everything here. The Hutu tribe sent quite a few people, and I'll teach you how to identify them, Hai Fuyu said. Xiang Beifei had no objections to this suggestion. Taking the initiative was far better than remaining passive. All right, lead the way, Xiang Beifei replied. The dense mountains rose and fell, lush vegetation shading the sky, while a faint mist drifted around, and a chill spread throughout. On one of the mountain's midsections, an unremarkable cliff was completely covered by vines, not visible from the outside. Two people sat on the cliff, their presences entirely concealed, blending seamlessly with the surrounding rock face. Even divine sense sweeping by would not detect them. These two individuals were ancestral Dao realm experts of the Dao Palace. One a tall young man clad in a luxurious purple robe, exuding an air of nobility and otherworldly grace with every gesture. The other, a middle-aged man in a black robe, exuded a deep aura, enveloping his surroundings, his expression cold and indifferent. After a moment, the purple-robed young man suddenly opened his eyes and said, "Did you feel it just now? That intense fluctuation, it seemed like a battle occurred." Battles occur in Common Valley every day, the black-robed, middle-aged man remarked. I know, but that wasn't a battle of ancestral artifacts. It seemed to originate from the weak water. The purple-robed young man said deeply. The black-robed man frowned slightly. I remember Wu Jian was guarding there. If something happened, he would have reported it by now. The purple-robed young man replied. But I feel uneasy. I can't perceive him anymore. What? Are you worried he'll be killed by an ancestral artifact? The black-robed man asked. It's not the ancestral artifact I'm worried about. It's Wufeng, the purple-robed young man stated. The aura of the black-robed figure became noticeably chaotic when he heard the name Wufeng. Why did you mention him? Said the black-robed figure. They said from above, this time when the Common Valley opens, we can't rule out the possibility of Wufeng appearing again. The youth in purple said. I doubt he would dare to come. Hard to say, he has the ability. Everyone knows very well what happened with Wufeng back then. This master of the human race killed 5 of our ancestral Dao realm masters single-handedly. Among them were 1 early ancestral Dao, 1 mid-ancestral Dao, and 3 late ancestral Dao. So what? Are all those 5 elders dead? The black-robed figure sneered. Well, no. He couldn't kill any of us, and this time we won't give him the chance, said the black-robed figure. The youth in purple recalled the battle from over 40 years ago, still wary of this human master. Back then, a master of the human race named Wufeng stormed into the Common Valley alone, and the Dao Palace sent 15 ancestral Dao realm masters, including 5 late ancestral Dao, 7 mid-ancestral Dao, and 3 early ancestral Dao. 15 people besieged this Wufeng, yet 5 of them ended up being counterkilled by him, including 3 late ancestral Dao. Although Wufeng was also severely injured and fled after, the battle left the name Wufeng, making many elders of the Dao Palace shudder. Of course, the 5 who were killed eventually revived through the Revival Divine Mark, and they are currently recovering. It shouldn't be long before they are back to their peak. He may try to retrieve his broken sword, but elders are laying in wait for him there. If Wufeng dares to come, it will be a one-way trip, the black-robed figure said coldly. When Wufeng fought against the Dao Palace in the Common Valley back then, although he killed 5 Dao Palace elders with his powerful cultivation, his ancestral artifact was broken as well, and the remaining piece of the broken sword was left in the Common Valley, not taken away in time. The Dao Palace has been at great pains for this broken sword. Though the black-robed figure and the youth in purple were not responsible for the Wufeng Broken Sword mission this time, they understood the situation there. In any case, we just do our own job, the black-robed figure said. The youth in purple ceased speaking, closed his eyes, and began to rest. But suddenly, a strong wave suddenly surged up. The youth in purple stood up. It's the ancestral artifact. The black-robed figure stood up, walked towards the edge of the cliff, and his gaze seemed to penetrate the mountains, falling on a pond in a mountain hollow. The pond was very calm and looked quite ordinary, with nothing special about it. Yet at this moment, the ground began to tremble, as if an earthquake had occurred, and the pond began to bubble. But the eerie thing was that it was not normal water bubbles that were emerging, but rather waves of red bubbles that unknowingly ascended into the sky. The ancestral artifact is stirring. The black-robed figure's spirit was lifted. The stir of the ancestral artifact implied that another ancestral artifact was approaching here, creating an oppositional hostility between them, which was a common trait of most ancestral artifacts. The reason the black-robed figure and his companion were waiting here was to see who would bring ancestral artifact fragments here. Seems like a fragment of the ancestral artifact is approaching. The youth in purple couldn't hide his excitement. Let's go. Check it out. Without any hesitation, they concealed themselves and headed towards the pond, appearing in an instant at a hidden spot above the pond. Strong divine sense swept out from them, centering on the pond. They began searching, scanning every flower and grass within 100 miles. Very soon, their eyes lit up. Within this 100-mile radius, a small figure was walking forward. It was a little boy about 3 or 4 years old, with fair, tender skin, resembling a porcelain doll, very endearing. He wore a little straw hat, with a blade of foxtail grass in his mouth, hands in his pockets, bouncing as he walked. As he walked, he was singing a song. In the morning, to school I go, the flowers smile at me. The birds say it's too early, why not sleep a bit more? The childish voice was crisp and pleasant, sounding full of energy. The black-robed figure and the youth in purple were taken aback upon hearing the song, and exchanged glances. Why is it a child? The youth in purple asked in surprise. They searched again, but within the 100-mile area, there was only this child. Don't be fooled by appearances. Who knows if he is not some ancient monster in the guise of a child? The black-robed figure said in a deep voice. As he spoke, he sent his divine sense scanning the 3-year-old boy. As experts of the ancestral Tao realm, their insight is keen, no race can disguise itself before them. The Tao Palace manages each race. They should be able to identify the origin of his race accurately. However, after scrutinizing this little boy, he was astonished to find that this boy was unlike any race they knew. The strangest part was that there was no trace of spiritual power fluctuations on him, just like an ordinary child, without any cultivation. He's just a normal child? The youth in purple exclaimed in shock. Impossible! How could a normal child get here? The black-robed figure said solemnly. This is the Common Valley, the most dangerous ancient battlefield. If a child without cultivation got here, that would be insane. Who exactly is this child? The youth in purple's expression became grave. The black-robed figure pondered and said, This guy must not be simple. As soon as he came, the ancestral artifact in the pond reacted, indicating either he carries another ancestral artifact, or he has ancestral artifact fragments. Let's wait for him to reach the pond. The youth in purple and the black-robed figure focused on the boy, intending to see what happened when he reached the pond and clashed with the ancestral artifact. Both were completely absorbed by the child, but at this time the child seemed to sense something, suddenly turned his head, and from more than a dozen miles away, gave a smile in their direction. Is he smiling at us? Just as this thought crossed the minds of the 2 Tao Palace elders, a terrifying aura suddenly pressed down upon them. Not good. The youth in purple reacted swiftly, almost instantly turned around, but as he did so, he saw a chilling Ruishui ice spike pierce through his head, penetrating his divine soul. Crack, crack, crack. The Ruishui cold invaded the body, instantly freezing the youth in Purple's divine soul. On the other side, the black-robed figure exclaimed, "Wu Zi!" But before he could aid, a whistling sound reached his rear, and with a puff, the black-robed figure's head flew off, spinning in the air. Not only was his physical head chopped off, but even his divine soul was severed. Too small fry, Hai Fuyu sneered. In the face of overwhelming power, these two early ancestral Dao realm elders of the Dao Palace didn't stand a chance, and were directly slain. Ha! That's 5. Xiaohei had bounced over, humming a tune, and began to loot treasures from the two bodies. They had been hunting down a line, and these two were the 4th and 5th Dao Palace elders they took down. Unfortunately, there were no ancestral artifacts on them. In the Dao Palace, experts of the early ancestral Dao realm do not qualify for ancestral artifacts, which are usually in the hands of at least mid-ancestral Dao elders. But Xiaohei also managed to gather a pile of treasures, which could be refined into spiritual power crystals to illuminate the stars. The all-encompassing Rui Shui returned to Hai Fuyu's body. He dusted off his clothes, glanced at Xiang Beifei and said, "You heard their conversation just now. Wufeng's broken sword is guarded by a large group of ancestral Dao realm experts. Are you still going?" "Yes, why wouldn't I?" Xiang Beifei responded calmly. Back then his grandfather alone faced 15 ancestral Dao realm masters, killing 3 late ancestral Dao, causing Wufeng's downfall. He's here today to retrieve the Wufeng fragment. This is a mountain range. The tallest peaks are at least 5,000 to 6,000 meters high, standing tall in every direction. But strangely, the mountains here have all been severed in one direction. Every mountain's cut is smooth and slants downward, forming a neat row, sliced right across the waist. Even after being cut, they remain 5,000 to 6,000 meters high. One can only imagine how towering they were in the past. At the foot of these peaks, rocks are strewn everywhere, the severed mountain tops colliding with each other in a chaotic mess. The entire area is filled with battle scars. Even getting slightly closer feels as if countless powerful sword energies are hidden amid the rocks and woods, ready to strike out and deliver a fatal blow to intruders at any moment. When Xiang Beifei arrived here, his first impression was one of awe. Familiar sword marks, familiar sword momentum, familiar sword chi. Wufeng's fierceness is scattered in every corner here, domineering and powerful. Every severed edge here looks fresh, as if it had just been sliced, as if the battle had occurred merely a half-hour ago. Is this the sword mark left by Grandpa? Xiang Beifei looked at the battlefield before him. The battlefield is desolate. Even though there are no longer any figures, he can vaguely make out the intense scenes of past battles from every scar, a proud loneliness of a powerful swordsman overlooking the world. One man, one sword, unstoppable. Wufeng, stronger than I had imagined. Upon seeing these severed mountains, a hint of gravity appeared in Hai Fuyu's blue eyes. The battle from decades ago existed only in the mouths of others. Strong or weak, it was up to others to define. But experiencing it firsthand reveals that others' words were true. Anyone with decent eyesight can sense the terror of that battle from the scars here. At their level of battle, as soon as they strike, it's like heaven collapsing and earth shattering, enough to destroy everything. And these mountains were not the battle's center. They were on the outskirts, tens of thousands of miles away, yet still severed, truly shocking. As for the deeper area ahead, it has already been leveled, with no towering peaks left, only low slopes and deep pits. That is the center of the battleground. All the mountains were destroyed, becoming a vast plain, and the ground even shows cracks stretching for kilometers. Xiang Beifei, sensing Wufeng in the spirit-gathering book, finds Wufeng slightly agitated, eager to rush out from the spirit-gathering book to the area tens of thousands of miles away to search for its fragments. The broken blade of Wufeng lies at the center there. Xiang Beifei chose not to let Wufeng out because he could perceive that within the battle zone, more than a dozen powerful presences are lurking. These individuals are formidable, all lying in wait here, setting various traps, waiting for the real Wufeng to arrive. It doesn't take much thought to know these are Dao Palace ancestral Dao realm experts. They surely have their own ancestral artifacts, and letting Wufeng emerge would alert them to unwanted attention. What should we do? Luo Shanyu asked. Coming here without understanding the situation, it's impossible to hunt other Dao Palace elders as before. Even though each elder is separated by thousands of miles, any action will surely attract the attention of other Dao Palace experts, leading to a siege by more than a dozen ancestral Dao realm experts. Although Xiang Beifei temporarily possesses the thunderous power of the Heavenly Thunder Venerable, giving him ancestral Dao realm cultivation, handling over a dozen ancestral Dao realm experts is clearly unrealistic. On their side, even with Luo Shanyu who just acquired Daoist Qingda's power, making 3 ancestral Dao realm experts, 3 against over a dozen is still inadequate. Do you have any suggestions? Xiang Beifei asked Hai Fuyu. My suggestions? Standing calmly in the air, Hai Fuyu looked at the devastated land ahead and then said, Leave this place. Leave? We're here to find Wufeng's fragments, Xiaohe said. If it were like earlier where an artifact guards each person, we could hunt them one by one. But with the current situation, the 3 of us alone have no chance, especially since I'm not fully recovered. Frankly, I can't fight late-stage ancestral Dao realm. Hai Fuyu speaks sincerely, without beating around the bush. What is Xiao Bei? How about we reconsider for the long term? Li Qianluo also said. She is now the weakest in the team, and once a battle of ancestral Dao realm level breaks out, she can hardly intervene. Luo Shanyu also said, Yes, knowing this place is enough. Where there's life, there's hope. When your cultivation is higher, we can come up with a plan to return. You should know, Common Valley won't close. The ancestral artifacts are the keys. I understand, don't worry. I won't act recklessly. But I need to see the situation, at least to find out where Wufeng's severed sword is. How about this, you stay here and I'll go in alone? Xiang Beifei said. No. Hai Fuyu was the first to oppose. He glanced at Xiang Beifei and said, I can't let you throw your life away. Ai Kong beside him grumbled, Humph. Since when do you care about his safety? Crocodile tears. Not really crocodile tears. If he gets caught by those guys, whether dead or alive doesn't matter. But the Yu Divine Steel being consumed would be a big issue. I don't want to become a puppet under that crowd again. Hai Fuyu said lazily. He is now bound to the Yu Divine Steel, becoming a heavenly Dao inscription of the Yu Divine Steel, which is a complete ancestral artifact. If Xiang Beifei is killed and the Yu Divine Steel is devoured, his fate will be dire too. I have a plan, you don't need to worry about me, Xiang Beifei said. Hai Fuyu frowned, seemingly disagreeing with Xiang Beifei's decision. However, after a moment of silence, he said, If you want to go inside, I'll go with you. I must go too, Luo Shanyu said solemnly. Senior uncle, please take them and leave first, Xiang Beifei said. Protecting you is my responsibility. Stop trying to send me away. I'm not that fragile. Luo Shanyu's attitude was firm. Xiang Beifei thought for a while and said, All right, the 3 of us will go in. Li, you and the others leave Common Valley first and wait for me outside. No, I have to follow too. Feng spoke up. You've already obtained the root of the seeking wood. Why follow me? Xiang Beifei asked. Feng reluctantly said, It's the clan leader's command. He said if we encounter you, we must protect you at all costs. TSK. Does the giant spirit race have such loyalty? Hai Fuyu laughed. Though he's a scum, his grandfather saved us. We despise all kinds of scum, but we never forget gratitude. Feng said coldly, Your current strength isn't enough to deal with those ancestral Dao realm experts. If something unexpected happens, I'll have to look after you, which is troublesome. Xiang Beifei said, What do you think of my strength? Feng countered, I know your ancestral Dao realm, but you can't fully unleash your power. This world doesn't allow your existence. Xiang Beifei said, Both Feng and Zhai Kong actually have ancestral Dao realm cultivation, but crammed into such small bodies less than 1.6 meters tall, their powers are suppressed. I won't go. Surprisingly, Li Qianluo didn't insist on going inside. Given the current situation, I'll only hold you back if I go. Xiao Bei, you must be careful if you're going. Don't easily provoke conflicts with them. Li Qianluo was quite self-aware. Okay, don't worry. Feng, Zhaikong, you don't need to worry about me either. Just follow Li outside. The three of us will go inside. Xiang Beifei said. But it's decided. Just the three of us will go inside. Xiang Beifei said. Feng and Zhaikong exchanged a look, frowned, but in the end did not insist. Xiang Zatsa, don't die, or we can't face the clan leader. Zhaikong said boisterously. Got it. I intend to visit your clan leader next time. Just wait for me. Xiang Beifei immediately covered himself with the yin-yang source qi, likewise concealing Hai Fuyu and Luo Shanyu. His yin-yang source qi can disguise his presence. So long as he doesn't act, he's unlikely to be detected by Dao Palace experts. The three silently slipped past the severed mountains, disappearing up ahead. Soon, only Feng, Zhaikong, and Li Qianluo remained. Let's leave and wait for him outside Common Valley. Feng turned and prepared to leave. Zhaikong took a couple of steps but noticed Li Qianluo was still standing there. He turned and asked, Hey, stranger little scum, coming? Li Qianluo waved her hand and said, I must do something first. You go on ahead. I'll catch up. Feng and Zhaikong found it odd, but since they had no connection with Li Qianluo, they didn't care what she wanted to do. Suit yourself. The two giant spirits shrugged and turned to leave. Xiao Bei's body can integrate with the heavenly Dao inscriptions, yet it hasn't reacted with other ancestral artifacts. That's really strange. Li Qianluo couldn't help murmuring. The heavenly Thunder Venerable, to avoid being devoured by the heavenly spear, essentially transferred his power to Xiang Beifei, making Xiang Beifei bear the heavenly Dao inscriptions. In a sense, he's like a human ancestral artifact, like the heavenly Thunder Venerable. An ancestral artifact should react to other ancestral artifacts. Yet when Xiang Beifei ambushed the Dao Palace Elder, it didn't attract the attention of other ancestral artifacts. Even to draw Dao Palace experts out, he relied on Wufeng to provoke an ancestral artifact reaction. If Xiang Beifei doesn't use other ancestral artifacts, he could walk right up to them without being noticed. No one paid attention to this, not even Xiang Beifei himself, but Li Qianluo took note. Of course, the same applies to Hai Fuyu, but since Hai Fuyu is attached to the Yu Divine Steel, which is rather gentle and doesn't provoke other ancestral artifacts, he also avoids detection by them. But how does Xiao Bei manage it? She looked at her palm, which had a crack as if the skin had split, but the fissure revealed not flesh or bone but seemed like a small world contained within. Blue skies, white clouds, lush mountains, and green waters. There even seemed to be small birds flying by. She opened the fissure slightly, looking into the small world, then frowned. I understand now. Xiao Bei is that person. What a bother. What should I do? Li Qianluo looked troubled, glanced again at the direction Xiang Beifei left, and then flashed away in the opposite direction, disappearing out of sight. The plain ahead was vast, and traces of the battle from 40 years ago were still evident. There was no life here, because the lingering sword qi made it impossible for even eternal life practitioners to take a step. Xiang Beifei carefully moved forward, not hurrying, for besides the awe-inspiring sword qi left by Wufeng, various powerful auras were lurking here. All ancestral Dao realm experts. If accidentally discovered, he would face a barrage of attacks like a storm. This place has such formidable formations set up. Xiang Beifei gazed at the ravines ahead, his expression grave. Hidden beneath these ravines are highly secretive formations which, if accidentally triggered, would sound an alarm. This isn't just about formations. These are the capabilities of the heavenly Dao inscriptions. Hai Fuyu looked at a black stone in front and said, For instance, this stone, once touched, it will truly transform into stone. It's a petrification ability of the heavenly Dao, which is unstoppable without the corresponding power. As he moved forward, he signaled Luo Shanyu to follow behind, saying, Don't step there. The void there has reversed and twisted heavenly Dao abilities. What do you mean by reversed and twisted? Luo Shanyu took a step back. Hai Fuyu said meaningfully, "You don't want to experience it. It can forcibly turn your body inside out, your skin, blood vessels, brain, and even your soul." Luo Shanyu froze for a moment, and then grew more serious. Hai Fuyu, having lived for over 10,000 years, is very familiar with many heavenly Dao techniques. When it comes to understanding the heavenly Dao inscriptions, few compare to Hai Fuyu, even Xiang Beifei can't match him. But this also confirms that this area is indeed overly dangerous. To capture Wu Feng, who came to search for ancestral artifact fragments, the Dao Palace employed every possible means, turning this place into a perilous zone. Following the ravines, they continued forward and were alerted by Xiang Beifei as they reached the edge of a deep crevasse. "Be cautious. There's an ancestral Dao realm expert hidden below." That ravine was only a meter wide but very deep, seemingly bottomless, at least 1,000 meters deep, a remnant of Wu Feng's sword mark. From within emanated a blazing aura. While not far below, a Dao Palace expert lay in ambush. "Early ancestral Dao, small fry." Hai Fuyu scoffed. Nevertheless, they still avoided it. At this point, within the Spirit Gathering Book, Wu Feng's perception of the ancestral artifact fragments was becoming increasingly strong, hinting the destination was close by. Before them lay a vast basin, thousands of meters deep, with a landscape appearing as if it had been upturned, the ground churned with numerous fissures. The giant sword in front of them is over 100 meters tall and about 10 meters wide, suspended in midair. Because they are quite far away, they can faintly discern the silhouette of the sword's body. It's precisely a broken segment of the Wu Feng sword. However, it belongs to the enlarged version of the sword body, or perhaps Wu Feng's true form is just this gigantic. Wu Feng inside the Spirit Gathering Book is already impatient, eagerly wanting to get out. If the book hadn't forcibly blocked its aura, it would have rushed out long ago to reunite with its sword body. The Wu Feng giant sword. Luo Shanyu took a deep breath, unable to conceal his inner excitement. He had once followed Taoist Qingde, and is very familiar with Qingde's Wu Feng. In those days, that sword led the human race to cut through brambles and thorns, surviving the slaughter from the Dao Palace, protecting the human race. Even though the sword body is now broken, the powerful aura cannot be mistaken. However, all three of them remained very calm. No dangerous aura hovered around the giant sword. It just quietly floated there, seemingly waiting for its other half to arrive, with nothing tying it down. Once Wu Feng appears, it will seamlessly follow and leave. But Xiang Beifei knew very much that this giant sword was far from simple. Though it seemed unrestrained, numerous powerful and bizarre heavenly Dao laws were interwoven around the giant sword. These laws were very concealed, and even ordinary experts in the ancestral Dao realm might not be able to detect them. "They've set up so many traps. They're really ruthless." Xiaohei couldn't help muttering. The area was extremely dangerous. If someone unaware blindly approached, they'd likely be shattered into pieces by the numerous heavenly Dao laws before even getting close to the sword body. Shattered Dao, unhead Dao, unhand Dao, suicide Dao, 10 not complete 1 Dao, TSK. Their methods really are diverse. Hai Fuyu couldn't help but express wonder. Yet, in his eyes, there flashed traces of chill inadvertently. He was familiar with these Daos because he had witnessed them, and some of the Daos even used to belong to him 100,000 years ago. "What is 10 not complete 1? Xiaohei asked puzzledly. "Chopping a person down to less than 1/10? Yes and no. Under the influence of this Dao, everything about you will be suppressed to 1/10, including body length, breathing intervals, reaction speed, etc., with even less than 1/10 of your strength exertable," Hai Fuyu explained. Xiaohei thoughtfully continued to ask, "Then the unhand Dao means your hands would be broken off as if by default?" "Yes, it does not allow your hands to exist within this Dao. In other words, entering this place means your hands cannot be used at all," Hai Fuyu replied. "Then the unhead Dao means the head cannot be used? Wouldn't that mean, if they wish, they could easily decapitate everyone in the edge corner airspace?" Xiaohei asked, wide-eyed. "Don't worry, they wouldn't dare, because they have heads themselves. Hai Fuyu stated calmly. The Hutu tribe, too, are a race that cultivate a humanoid form. They also have heads. If they block this Tao, disallowing heads to exist, then not only would others lose their heads, but they would also lose theirs. So they don't dare use this Tao recklessly, at most just defining an area where those who enter lose their heads. To think there are such bizarre heavenly Tao laws, Luo Shanyu said gravely. What you all don't know about the Xingtian race. The unhead Tao is their cultivated Tao. Their entire race has no heads, Hai Fuyu stated. Xiaohe exclaimed. And this race hasn't dominated yet. If they flashed their ancestral artifact, all the head-dependent people would be dead, and only they would be left in the world. In his view, if the Xingtian race wanted to dominate the world, they could do so with ease, by not allowing any heads to exist. Other races simply couldn't survive. Heavenly Tao laws counterbalance each other. Where there's an unhead Tao, naturally there's also a headed Tao. Most races are under the protection of the headed Tao, thus they aren't executed. The Xingtian race would need to swallow the headed Tao, divine pattern first to make the world headless. But, as it seems, the Xingtian race hasn't swallowed the headed Tao laws, and instead, their race's Tao has been swallowed by others. Hai Fuyu slightly shook his head, filled with emotion. The one currently in control of the unhead Tao, naturally, is the Tao Palace, which has collected many Tao laws, making them a singular dominant force. Luo Shanyu asked, since everyone is under the protection of the headed Tao, doesn't that mean we shouldn't worry at all about being influenced by the unhead Tao if we approach? Heavenly Tao laws also vary in strength. The Xingtian race cannot use the unhead Tao to decapitate every race because it acts on the entire world. This power would be offset by the headed Tao. But if the divine pattern is focused on a specific area, it's a different situation. Hai Fuyu patiently explained about the heavenly Tao laws without any sign of impatience. Duly noted. Luo Shanyu nodded slightly. The more he understood the heavenly Tao laws, the more terrifying he found their power. The ancestral artifacts controlling the entire world weren't just for show. This was also why, from ancient times to the present, many races constantly slaughtered each other, vying for other races' ancestral artifacts. Because the heavenly Tao laws restrict each other, it's basically impossible for one race to dominate unless they seize the divine patterns that restrain their own race's heavenly Tao laws. So many heavenly Tao laws are sealing off the broken sword. How are we supposed to get past them? It's simply unachievable, Era said, peeking out from the pocket. Unless we find someone tough-skinned and thick-fleshed, who can withstand the power of the heavenly Tao laws, otherwise it's very difficult. Hai Fuyu said. After a while, he added, I can only think of one person who could do it. Who? Xiaohe asked. The old giant spirit, Father Pu, Hai Fuyu said. He can withstand the power of the heavenly Tao laws? Xiaohe asked in surprise. Don't underestimate Father Pu. He is an extremely powerful existence. Many heavenly Tao laws may not even be able to break his defense. The headless broken hand, 10 not complete one. These heavenly Tao laws were cast on his body, and they wouldn't affect him, Hai Fuyu said. Ah, so if he didn't care about his people, would he be invincible? Xiaohe asked. Not completely invincible, but close. The Tao Palace once suppressed him using the Yu Divine Steel and our Ruishui River to restrain their weaknesses, but they couldn't kill him. The only thing that can obliterate him is the giant spirit divine patterns, so if he were at his peak, he could completely ignore the traps here. Hai Fuyu said. That is truly a pity. Xiaohe, with hands on hips, looked regretful. He turned his head and said, Fei, we must find a way to steal back the giant spirit divine patterns, so we can rely on the old giant spirit to deal with the Tao Palace. Currently, the giant spirit divine patterns are in the hands of the Tao Palace. This world does not permit the existence of the giant spirit race, no matter how powerful the old giant spirit is. He can't move freely in this world, and can only linger in the small area of the Bone Mountain Desert Stone Cave. Or if the ancestral artifacts you've collected have invincible divine patterns, you might try. Hai Fuyu added. No invincible divine patterns. Xiang Beifei shook his head. He currently possesses the power of the ancestral Dao realm temporarily, just barely able to explore the capabilities of the ancestral artifacts, including Wufeng, the brick, the Yu divine steel, the stone tower. The heavenly Dao divine patterns they seal are partially clear. Of course, there are still many divine patterns that cannot be detected because of the ancestral artifact's brokenness. And the breakage causes another factor. Even if he has invincible divine patterns now, in reality, they are not invincible. As Hai Fuyu said, the heavenly Dao divine patterns restrict each other, the power varies in strength, and if the power of the invincible divine patterns isn't complete, it would still be crushed by other divine patterns. Then you've confirmed what you need to. You understand the situation clearly? Can you leave now? Hai Fuyu asked. There are thousands of heavenly Dao laws guarding around the broken sword's blade, not to mention the dozen or so strong ancestral Dao realm masters hiding in the dark, making it impossible to successfully take the broken sword. Damn it! Isn't there any other way? Xiaohei was extremely unwilling. I suggest you continue to seek out complete ancestral artifacts. Only ancestral artifacts can defeat ancestral artifacts. And of course, you need to improve your own strength, otherwise, you will find it hard to control even the ancestral artifacts. Hai Fuyu assessed Xiang Beifei and said, You have great potential. The Burning Yang and Yin are also very mysterious heavenly Dao powers. What you lack is cultivation. Maybe when you improve your cultivation, you can try again here. Xiang Beifei understood this truth well. The only power he can currently wield is the Thunder Divine Patterns, but other aspects of power remain his own realm. For instance, the power of Burning Yang and Yin, when he uses it, only possesses the power of the early ascending Dao stage. Such power, when facing the heavenly Dao Divine Patterns, is almost useless and can easily be blocked. He was still too weak. Xiang Beifei took a deep breath and looked again at the broken sword floating in midair, making a decision. Let's go. Leave this place. Luo Shanyu was slightly relieved, worried that Xiang Beifei might be too reckless. Fortunately, this kid, although he likes to venture out alone at times, still has a sense of measure in what he does. The three turned back along the original path. No matter how unwilling they were now, it was useless. Without strength, there was no way to forcibly break into this place. All right, next time. Next time. Feifei will definitely snatch it for you. Then we'll charge forward and wipe them out. Xiaohei, clutching the spirit-gathering book, comforted the blunt broken sword. It had its own consciousness and knew Xiang Beifei and the others were leaving, feeling quite unwilling, rolling furiously, trying to break free from the bounds of the spirit-gathering book. But the spirit-gathering book was powerful, and Wufeng had no way besides being furious. But at this moment, Xiaohei suddenly let out a small exclamation. What's wrong? Xiang Beifei asked. Xiaohei's voice echoed in Xiang Beifei's mind. The Well constellation and Ghost constellation, they seem to be struggling too, as if they've met their kind. Their kind? In this common valley? Yes, and it seems similar to the last time with the Litian spear shard. Is it the same? Xiaohei said uncertainly. Are you saying that the Well constellation and Ghost constellation are also sealing ancestral artifact shards? It's possible, Xiaohei replied. Xiang Beifei frowned slightly. Last time his Shun constellation sealed a shard of the Litian spear. If it's the same as the Litian spear shard, it means there's likely another incomplete ancestral artifact nearby. He took the spirit-gathering book and carefully sensed the seal of the Well constellation and Ghost constellation. Indeed, there was an aura inside impacting the seal, but the later seals grew stronger, sufficient as Inquiry Dao realm seals. Unless Xiang Beifei agreed, it wouldn't break out on its own like Era. The aura is over here. Xiang Beifei turned right, following the guidance of the spirit-gathering book, rounded one trench after another, and then stopped at the side of an abyss. From below this abyss, strange auras faintly rose up. There are ancestral Dao realm experts below, and it seems to be a late ancestral Dao realm expert. Hai Fuyu stood by the abyss and remarked, We won't disturb them. Xiang Beifei still determined to see what was inside the abyss. He needed to confirm what ancestral artifact was there. The three of them carefully descended into the abyss. Around this abyss, there were also traces of strong heavenly Dao formations, well protected and very concealed. They bypassed these formation guardians and descended about 1,000 meters before the abyss suddenly became spacious, with the stones on the walls being special, emitting a faint light that dispelled the darkness. Xiang Beifei saw clearly what lay in front of him. It was a large bronze cauldron, about 20 meters tall, and its opening was enormous, akin to a small lake. Inside this cauldron, a strange vortex swirled, occasionally flashing with golden rays like lightning trying to disperse these vortices. This great cauldron, ancient and grand, contained a vast aura, emitting terrifying waves, evidently a powerful ancestral artifact. Xiang Beifei's gaze dropped to the bottom of the cauldron. It originally appeared to be a tripod cauldron, but 2 of its legs were missing, as if forcibly broken off by something, leaving only a single leg remaining. Xiang Beifei looked at the spirit-gathering book in his hand and suddenly understood where those missing 2 cauldron legs went. They were inside his spirit-gathering book. On the only remaining leg of the great cauldron, a golden chain was tightly locked, its other end disappearing into the void. This chain was familiar to Xiang Beifei, identical to the one from last time at the Bone Mountain Desert Stone Cave that locked the head in the sky. This was a chain formed by the power of the heavenly Tao. "How's it going with the Gathering Spirit Book? Can we get out of here?" asked Tai Fuyu from the edge of the abyss. Xiang Beifei took a deep breath as he glanced once more at the broken sword suspended in midair, then made up his mind. "Let's go. Leave this place." Luo Shanyu felt slightly relieved too, as he was worried that Xiang Beifei would be too reckless. Fortunately, despite the boy's love of venturing alone, he still had a sense of proportion. The 3 of them turned to retrace their steps, even now too unwilling as it may be. Without enough strength, they cannot force their way into this place. All right, next time. We'll snatch it for you next time. And when the time comes, we'll charge in and destroy them." Xiaohe held onto the spirit-gathering book and comforted the blunt broken sword, which had its own consciousness as well. It knew that Xiang Beifei and the others were leaving, and was quite unwilling. It was rolling around restlessly, trying to break free from the book's restraints. But the spirit-gathering book was very powerful, and Wufeng had no choice but to be filled with rage. However, at that moment, Xiaohe suddenly let out a slight exclamation. "What is it?" Xiang Beifei asked. Xiaohe's voice echoed in Xiang Beifei's mind. The Well constellation and Ghost constellation, they seem to be struggling too, as if they've encountered their kind. Their kind? Over here in Common Valley. Yes, just like the last time with the Litian spear fragments, it seems the same? Xiaohe said uncertainly. Are you saying that the Well constellation and Ghost constellation are also sealing ancestral artifact fragments? There's that possibility, Xiaohe said. Xiang Beifei frowned slightly. Last time, his Shin constellation sealed a fragment of the Litian spear, and if these are the same as the Litian spear fragments, it suggests that there might also be other incomplete ancestral artifacts nearby. He took the Gathering Spirit Book and carefully felt the seals of the Well constellation and the Ghost constellation. Sure enough, there was a strange aura impacting the seal inside, but the further back the seal went, the stronger it became. It couldn't break free on its own unless Xiang Beifei improved his cultivation further, unlike how Era escaped before. The aura is just below here. Xiang Beifei led them as they carefully descended along the side of the abyss. All around the abyss, there were traces of powerful heavenly Tao formation, ready to protect with great concealment. Xiang Beifei hadn't returned to Jiuzhou in a long time, and the familiar atmosphere made him feel nostalgic. But the vortex swirling in the giant cauldron brought him more than just a feeling of nostalgia. It carried an even more eerie presence. He knew very well what this presence was, and even thinking about it left him astonished for a while. Alternate space vortex. Back when he was in Jiuzhou, Xiang Beifei was only at the meridian opening stage, relying on his mastery of the system to break into the 9 provinces' archives. The 9 provinces' archives was one of the most strongly guarded places in all of Jiuzhou. He still remembered Wu when mentioning the various powerful system abilities like the 49 defensive labyrinth paths, the 81 system formation paths, and 19 powerful dimensional spaces, which made the SSR-level Awakener's venture into the alternate space vortex with no return. The presence here was exactly that of the alternate space vortex. Why is this vortex like this? Xiang Beifei felt something was amiss. He recalled related matters of the Nine Provinces archives. At that time, the various system abilities outside the Nine Provinces archives were basically ignored by him, and the so-called alternate space vortex seemed non-existent to him. Back then, he simply thought it was another system ability not worth mentioning. Later, in the outer wilderness, he destroyed the Eternal Night Demon King and rescued Helian Zheng, who had been captured by the meat-winged monster. Helian Zheng was originally an unrestrained SSR-level awakener. After their leader Kalavinka disappeared, he followed Xiang Tianxing's instructions to investigate the matters of the Desert Stone Cave, inadvertently discovering that the Moon God race had imprisoned humans in Changpan Valley, leading to his own capture. Helian Zheng had told him about the mystery of Kalavinka's disappearance. The unrestrained leader Kalavinka had sensed a mysterious power in Jiuzhou, a power seemingly manipulating humans and threatening Jiuzhou's safety. He was persistently searching for the source of this power and eventually locked onto the Jiuzhou Archive building. Back then, a power clash erupted at the Jiuzhou Archive building. To provide an explanation to the outside world, the Jiuzhou Alliance fabricated a story about Kalavinka battling the so-called artificial intelligence god, and in the end, Kalavinka being suppressed by the artificial intelligence god. But in fact, in Xiang Beifei's eyes, the so-called artificial intelligence god was nothing more than an artificial idiot, incapable of defeating Kalavinka. According to Helian Zheng, Kalavinka fought fiercely in the Jiuzhou Archive building to seal off this power. He successfully sealed it, sending word for Helian Zheng to find Xiang Tianxing, and then vanished. Was the power Kalavinka mentioned referring to this vortex? The more Xiang Beifei thought about it, the more astonished he became. The vortex in the cauldron was too familiar, exactly like the one outside the Nine Provinces archives. There was no mistake about it. Could it be that the alternate space vortex outside the Nine Provinces archives leads here? This thought made Xiang Beifei feel uneasy. Xiaohe said, I remember Helian Zheng saying that Kalavinka sealed the alternate space vortex. If that's true, I don't quite understand how Kalavinka accomplished it. At most, he was only a half-step into the immortal realm, right? I remember Uncle Luo saying that if the human race doesn't sever their Tao, they can't reach the immortal realm, right? When Xiang Beifei was in Jiuzhou, no one in Jiuzhou had achieved the strength to break through to the immortal realm. The strongest person he knew was Luo Yunxian. On the side, Luo Shanyu asked, Who are you talking about? Xiang Beifei turned and said, Has Sherbua ever heard of Kalavinka? Did he come to Edge Corner airspace to look for the human race? Kalavinka? Luo Shanyu was momentarily stunned. A UR system awakener, who left the Jiuzhou Alliance and became the leader of Jiuzhou's Unrestrained. Xiang Beifei extended his fingers, deliberately writing the characters for Kalavinka in spiritual power on his palm for Luo Shanyu to see. Unrestrained, Kalavinka. Luo Shanyu's face suddenly took on a strange expression. Sherbua, you should know about the Unrestrained, right? Xiang Beifei asked. Why suddenly ask about this? Luo Shanyu asked. Because I remembered some things related to the Unrestrained. Xiang Beifei said. Luo Shanyu was silent for a long time before slowly saying, Before I left Jiuzhou, I was the leader of the Unrestrained. Ah! Xiang Beifei was stunned. This news was something he had never expected. Uncle Luo, were you the Unrestrained leader Kalavinka? Xiaohe stared at Luo Shanyu with wide eyes. Xiang Beifei said, No, the timeline doesn't match up. I remember Sherbua left Jiuzhou over 50 years ago, and the Kalavinka incident was over 20 years ago. Kalavinka's original name was Luo Kaimo. He was my son. Before I left Jiuzhou to search for answers, I handed the Unrestrained over to him. Luo Shanyu calmly said, Son. Xiang Beifei and Xiaohe exchanged a look, both equally shocked. Neither of them had ever considered it might be this. What, Luo Yunxian never mentioned this to you? Luo Shanyu snorted coldly. He didn't mention it. Wait, what exactly is going on? Xiang Beifei had never inquired about what Luo Shanyu did in Jiuzhou and seemed to find no records about him in Jiuzhou. Now, thinking back, if Luo Shanyu was unrestrained, everything seems to make sense. Because in the Zhuzhou archives, there were basically no records of the unrestrained. Do you think why I and Luo Yunxian had opposing views? Why did I leave Zhuzhou? Why did I decisively sever my Dao? When Luo Shanyu mentioned Luo Yunxian, his tone immediately turned unfriendly. Xiang Beifei knocked his head, realizing, unrestrained, it was to break free from the system's shackles. To sever the Dao meant to cut off the system. Unrestrained was meant to sever the Dao. How could he have overlooked this? After coming to Kangji Abyss, Xiang Beifei hadn't worried about these past issues. As the younger generation, he was too lazy to meddle in the affairs of the older generation. They were all his people. Favoring one over the other wouldn't be good, so he pretended not to know. Otherwise, being caught in the middle would be difficult. He knew that Luo Shanyu and Luo Yunxian seemed to have conflicts, but he didn't expect such contradictions. One represented the 9 Provinces Alliance, the other the Resistance Alliance, with different perspectives and stances. No wonder neither wanted to mention the other. "What's wrong with my son?" Luo Shanyu asked. Explaining it is complicated because concerning Jialuoluo and Unrestrained, many things I'm not too clear on. Xiang Beifei simply recounted all the clues he knew, especially about the alien space vortex. After hearing these words, Luo Shanyu fell silent again. After a long time, his gaze returned to the vortex in the large cauldron, and he said, "So that's where this power is. Does Uncle know this power too?" Luo Shanyu nodded slightly. "I've always found the system of Zhuzhou a bit odd. At that time, my system task points were enough to break through to the immortal realm. But the system didn't let me break through. I felt something was wrong. At that time, my cultivation in Zhuzhou had already touched the ceiling. I began to vaguely sense a power affecting Zhuzhou, affecting the system, but I never found it. Later, before I left Zhuzhou, I told my son to keep an eye on it." Xiang Beifei solemnly said, "It seems he found it." Luo Shanyu's gaze fell on the large cauldron. "You mean, this vortex is connected to the Zhuzhou archive building, and he sealed the vortex?" Xiang Beifei said, "I don't know if he sealed it, but I definitely recognize the aura of this vortex. If so, things are complicated. The ancestral artifact here is connected to the Zhuzhou archive building, which is very important to Zhuzhou," Luo Shanyu said solemnly. "Because inside the Zhuzhou archive building, all personal information of Zhuzhou residents is kept. Anyone's awakened system level, cultivation, job, residence, are all recorded in detail. And this broken large cauldron ancestral artifact exists in Common Valley, still under the Dao Palace's control. So the Dao Palace might be using this large cauldron to understand every person in Zhuzhou. Having humanity's details thoroughly checked is by no means good." Xiaohe said, "But Jialuoluo, Uncle Luo's son, if this is an ancestral artifact, he seems not to have the ability to seal this vortex, right? An ancestral artifact is at least ancestral Dao realm power, not something a heavenly connection realm can seal." At this point, Hai Fuyu, who had been listening silently, spoke up. "According to what you say, it might not be so." "Why?" Xiang Beifei looked at Hai Fuyu. Hai Fuyu said, "Since ancient times, the Great Desolate Realm has been separated from the Edge Corner airspace. To go to the Great Desolate Realm, power must be suppressed. It seems there's a heavenly Dao divine pattern protecting that place, so other ancestral artifact powers trying to affect there must likely follow that boundary of power. In other words, this side's vortex power can reach ancestral Dao realm, but on the other side can only reach the highest power allowed. If Jialuoluo is already a peak strong person over there, then he has the ability to seal the vortex on that side." This explanation made sense, but another issue couldn't be ignored. Did the Dao Palace create this vortex channel with the large cauldron ancestral artifact specifically to deal with Zhuzhou humanity? "Do they know about the human system?" Xiaohe asked. "What do you mean by the human system? I don't remember the human race having such a thing," Hai Fuyu asked. "We don't know how it came. It just seemed like suddenly the system existed on humans, accompanying everyone," Xiang Beifei said. Hai Fuyu nodded with understanding. "From what you say, it seems the system limits your development. But have you considered another possibility, that perhaps it's the system that has helped you survive in the Great Desolate Realm?" What? Is there such a saying? Xiaohei asked in surprise. Hai Fuyu said, I've slept for too long, not clear about what happened over the past 100,000 years, but I can firmly tell you 100,000 years ago, among the 9 major races of the Edgecorner airspace, the human race was the most powerful. Humans cultivated much faster than other races. He was quite sure of humanity's talent. The Great Desolate Realm seems more like a primitive, undeveloped land. Its creatures are quite weak. I've never heard of the human race going to the Great Desolate Realm, leaving the comfortable Edgecorner airspace. What for? Limiting themselves? Humans wouldn't be that foolish unless forced. Xiang Beifei suddenly realized, could it be humans of the Great Desolate Realm, including Zhizhou, escaped from Edgecorner airspace? 100,000 years ago, after a battle, the Dao Palace won, and the human race began being massacred by the Dao Palace, fleeing and hiding in Edgecorner airspace, almost having no place to stand. If part of humanity went to escape pursuit by the Dao Palace, then they would only live in places the Dao Palace itself wouldn't go. And the Great Desolate Realm was clearly the only choice given the circumstances then. But humans over at Edgecorner airspace couldn't easily go to the Great Desolate Realm, as a strong power there restricted them. Xiaohei's eyes revolved, exclaiming, so, the system, could it be like an alternative Dao Sheath? Meaning, the system helped humanity survive in the Great Desolate Realm, and without it, they couldn't live there. Luo Shanyu also realized, the saying of Dao Sheath seems somewhat plausible. Coming from Zhuzhou, but after severing the Dao, losing the system, he could no longer return to the Great Desolate Realm. Yet soon, Xiaohei asked, confused, but over 3,000 years ago, the Hanxia humans at Floating Immortal Isles didn't have a system. They had a Dao embryo. Back then, the Dao embryo was probably the system's prototype. Maybe it hadn't yet become a system. Xiang Beifei had been to Floating Immortal Isles, not knowing why he ended up 3,000 years back, meeting his grandfather, who then was only of Heavenly Connection Realm cultivation. But in fact, Xiang Qingde might not have only been of Heavenly Connection Realm. He was forced to be of Heavenly Connection Realm. And Xiang Qingde's senior brother, Daoist Qingyang, before dying, instructed Xiang Qingde with all his might to protect the human race's Dao embryo, saying it was humanity's hope? For without Dao embryo, humans would face destructive blows, unable to survive in the Great Desolate Realm. So by this, Daoist Qingyang was very likely not only immortal realm, his power might have been stronger. But upon reaching the Great Desolate Realm, he suppressed himself to Heavenly Connection Realm. Later, the Eternal Night Demon King and Demon Tentacle King invaded. They might have been born immortal realm experts of the Great Desolate Realm, or sent by the Dao Palace, able to temporarily exert immortal realm power, surpassing the Heavenly Connection Realm Daoist Qingyang. Daoist Qingyang, to protect the human race, had to use power beyond Heavenly Connection Realm to kill the Demon Tentacle King and Eternal Night Demon King, but met with destructive blows from the Great Desolate Realm's Heavenly Dao power, leading to his demise. Xiang Beifei gradually sorted out the entire matter. Back when he met Daoist Qingyang, his own power was too weak, not even reaching Heavenly Connection Realm, so he couldn't discern why Daoist Qingyang was injured. Now on reflection, realizing Daoist Qingyang's wounds were peculiar. If he could wield Burning Yang and Burning Yin, he shouldn't let his body get out of balance. Only one possibility remained, that he was severely injured by Heavenly Dao power, causing an imbalance of Yin and Yang in himself. At this moment, Daoist Qingyang's life spark still resides within the stone tower. This also explains why Daoist Qingyang, like the humans in Edgecorner airspace, possesses a life spark. Xiang Beifei took out the stone tower, watching the burning life spark. Although Daoist Qingyang's life spark hasn't extinguished, it hasn't awoken again either, having exhausted all his power when he assisted Xiang Beifei in defeating the Eternal Night Demon King. If he could wake up, perhaps he could answer these questions. What about the matters afterwards? How did the Dao embryo and system come about? Could they be related to this grand ancestral vessel? Xiaohei asked. Perhaps there is a connection. Otherwise, the other side of the vortex wouldn't appear unreasonably in Zhizhou's archives building. Xiang Beifei replied. Xiaohei speculated. Could it be that originally Grandpa Xiang placed the grand vessel in Common Valley to ensure the human race's system Dao embryo, But it was taken by the Dao Palace, so Grandpa Xiang came to Common Valley to reclaim this grand vessel? Luo Shanyu nodded solemnly and said, "That's possible." Taoist Qingda mentioned before going to Common Valley that this matter is very important. The grand vessel is right at the center of the battle. Where Wufeng was cut off, the grand vessel was destroyed there as well. Everything lines up. Xiang Beifei looked down at the grand vessel. It's quite unrealistic to go investigate the grand vessel now because it, like the defunct Wufeng, is surrounded by powerful protective heavenly Dao laws. Triggering them would result in massive commotions. However, at that moment, the grand vessel suddenly emitted a slight tremor, as if sensing something, with ripples rapidly spreading outward. "Someone's coming. Come to my side," Xiang Beifei said urgently. Luo Shanyu and Hai Fuyu promptly moved to Xiang Beifei's side, silently retreating to the other side, lurking in a relatively dark corner of the abyss. Then two shadowy figures appeared as if they were ghosts. The aura emanating from these two individuals was extremely strong. They were clearly powerful masters at the ancestral Dao realm. One of them wore a black cloak, covering themselves completely, making it impossible to see their appearance. The other was a red-haired elder with a ruddy complexion, whose beard, eyebrows, and hair seemed to burn like fire, very noticeable with the strongest aura. Taoist, Wu Zhejiu, Dao Embryo, Huda Dao, Realm, Late Ancestral Dao, Late-Stage Ancestral Dao Master. Xiang Beifei's expression became extremely grave. This was someone he couldn't afford to antagonize. Then he looked at the other person and suddenly paused. The man's face was obscured by a dark mist, preventing a clear view of his true appearance. But Xiang Beifei used yin-yang source energy to simulate the man's Dao embryo. A snowflake. The Dao embryo was a snowflake screen. How can this be? Xiang Beifei was amazed. Until now, Xiang Beifei could see what everyone's Dao embryo was, meaning he could simulate everyone's Dao embryos as system interfaces using yin-yang source energy. But the snowflake screen as a system interface indicated that this person had cut off the Dao. Is this a human race? Xiaohe was also startled, scratched his head, and asked, "Is this guy making a mistake somewhere?" He glanced at the man, then turned to look at Luo Shanyu, whose Dao embryo was also a snowflake screen, just the same. At this moment, Luo Shanyu was frowning, staring at the man, his gaze becoming increasingly puzzled. "Impossible, how can this be? No way," Luo Shanyu muttered to himself. "What's wrong? Uncle Luo, what did you see?" Luo Shanyu took a deep breath, then slowly said, "Maybe it's just an illusion." "It might not be an illusion. He's human," Xiang Beifei said. Xiang Beifei couldn't yet confirm the name of the Dao-cutting man, but he was certain the aura the man emitted was of a mid-stage ancestral Dao. Formidable indeed. Not far away, the two people were attracted by the grand vessel's ripples. Soon, their powerful divine sense swept over the entire underground abyss, searching without any blind spots. "Strange. I always felt something appeared here just now." The speaker was the Dao-cutting man, with cultivation at the mid-stage ancestral Dao. Yes, the grand vessel showed unusual ripples. Wu Zhejiu of the Dao Palace examined the disabled grand vessel. The Dao-cutting man spoke. "Could it be Wufeng came here?" Wu Zhejiu glanced at the Dao-cutting man and asked, "How much do you know about Wufeng?" The Dao-cutting man slightly shook his head. "I don't know much, only heard the name, never met the person." "But you've been to Jiuzhou and know its situation," Wu Zhejiu said. "I couldn't find him in Jiuzhou." The Dao-cutting man shook his head. Wu Zhejiu snorted softly, gazing meaningfully at the Dao-cutting man, and after a moment, said, "I might believe you." The Dao-cutting man kept his head down. His face remained hidden in the darkness. After some time, the Dao-cutting man asked, "When will we move against Jiuzhou?" "You tell me when is the right time to move against Jiuzhou? After all, you sealed the entrance on the other side." Wu Zhejiu replied, "I sealed it because you didn't tell the truth," the Dao-cutting man said gloomily. Wu Zhejiu smiled faintly and said, "Sending you over was indeed considering Wufeng's existence. We worried you'd be discovered by Wufeng, so we didn't tell you the truth, lest you give us away. I understand, the man who cut the Dao said. Actually, it's fine if you've sealed it. We still have our people on the Zhuzhou side. When the time comes, he'll deal with what you sealed there, Wu Zhijiu said. The man who cut the Dao seemed a bit surprised and asked, "Oh, who is that person?" Wu Zhijiu laughed and said, "Who it is, you don't need to know. I can only tell you that this person has infiltrated the upper echelons of Zhuzhou. He has a considerable reputation and is now very influential, always lying in wait, just waiting for our message. So there's still a backup plan, no wonder," the man who cut the Dao said. "How can we not have a backup plan? We must ascertain the situation with Wufeng. Otherwise, it's hard to invade Zhuzhou and kill all humans," Wu Zhijiu said slowly. The man who cut the Dao appeared indifferent to this matter, merely looking up at the cauldron with broken feet and said, "Completely wiping out the human race in Zhuzhou is not a simple task. Rest assured, their power is limited by the system, which means they are a group of pathetic weaklings, at most only at the late heavenly connection stage, more than enough to annihilate this race," Wu Zhijiu said. "It's hard to say. We plan to attack Zhuzhou but are also restricted by the heavenly Dao patterns of the Great Desolate Realm. Once we go over, our strength may not be much higher than theirs. There's a heavenly connection master in Zhuzhou named Luo Yunxian, the strongest I've seen at that stage. I feel he could single-handedly withstand the immortality stage," the man who cut the Dao said. "You don't need to worry about that. Our mole planted in Zhuzhou has status, and when the time comes, he will take Luo Yunxian by surprise and kill him." Wu Zhijiu seemed confident. "Hopefully we can kill Luo Yunxian. Otherwise it will be hard to win," the man who cut the Dao said. Wu Zhijiu walked towards the cauldron with broken feet, ignoring the heavenly Dao patterns surrounding it, as these patterns were evidently ineffective against him. He reached out his hand, gently tapping the cauldron. Dong! The cauldron emitted a faint sound, which echoed in the deep abyss for a long time. Then, a series of patterns appeared around the cauldron, attached to it, flashing with golden light. Each pattern was a heavenly Dao law. The man who cut the Dao was silent for a moment and said, "Killing 20 billion humans from Zhuzhou? Can it really cope with that thing at the world's end? Why? Do you still have feelings for Zhuzhou?" Wu Zhijiu retorted. "Not really. It's just that whether the human race lives or dies has nothing to do with me. I'm from the Hutu tribe and that's enough," the man who cut the Dao said. "Good that you understand." Wu Zhijiu knocked again on the cauldron, and the sound became crisper. At this time, the vortex inside the cauldron began to rotate, with strange light seemingly streaking through the white vortex. These lights were brilliantly colored, each seemingly connected to the cauldron and constantly surging. Wufeng's biggest mistake was relying on this cauldron as the Dao sheath for the human race. All the human system power comes from the cauldron, so controlling them is more than sufficient. Wu Zhijiu suddenly waved his hand, and countless items appeared in midair. Upon closer inspection, these were various special pills. Qi-controlling pill, God-refining pill, soul-condensing pills, orifice-transforming elixir, as well as sharp swords and knives, herbs, and groups of spiritual power crystals. These were treasures refined by various races, emitting the aura of Qi-controlling, meridian opening, orifice transforming, or even heavenly connection stages. All these items were thrown into the cauldron, merged into those vortices, with streams of golden light from the vortices enveloping them, dragging them into the cauldron to disappear. So many humans, consuming countless spiritual power crystals. I never thought Wufeng would have prepared so many treasures and spiritual power crystals in this cauldron back then, the man who cut the Dao said. You underestimate the heritage of the human race. Although they were defeated in that battle 10,000 years ago, they were once a great race. The treasures they left behind are enough to supply the whole of Zhuzhou. When Wufeng started with this ancestral artifact, he put everything into it, using the distribution of the ancestral artifact as a so-called system reward to make the human race self-sufficient and grow stronger faster. Wu Zhijiu sneered, then reached out his hand into the vortex, slowly stirring it as if mixing a medicinal soup. The human race in Jojo grows according to the system abilities given by the cauldron, with all their power bound to this cauldron. We initially used the resources provided by Wufeng, but now we need the human system to start absorbing the cultivation resources we provide. This way, our power can infiltrate their systems and then… Haha! Wu Zhejiu laughed heartily. So when do we strike against Jojo? When our power has completely permeated all the Jojo human systems, that's when we'll attack Jojo. It shouldn't take long, I suppose just a year or two, maybe even sooner, Wu Zhejiu said. I understand. The man who cut the Tao nodded slightly and asked no more questions. Instead, he went to the other side, also waving his hand to take out various precious pills, spiritual power crystals he had collected, and other treasures, as if refining medicines, tossing them all into the cauldron. When he approached, the light from the vortex finally illuminated the face of the man who cut the Tao, revealing his features to Xiang Beifei and the others. It was a very stern man with resolute features, looking somewhat familiar. Luo Shanyu was completely stunned. He stared fiercely at this man, clenching his fists tightly. Xiang Beifei had already vaguely understood the identity of the man before him. Is it him, Master Uncle? Xiang Beifei asked quietly. Luo Shanyu's body was trembling slightly, looking very shocked and angry. His expression told everything. The man who cut the Tao was none other than his son, Luo Changbai, the leader of Wuji. Jialuoluo. How could this happen? How could he stand on Tao Palace's side? Luo Shanyu clenched his fists, seeing his son again, having no time for excitement, for his heart was already shrouded in shock and anger. He didn't even understand how his son's cultivation reached the ancestral Tao realm. At this moment, Xiang Beifei's heart was also set in turmoil. The conversation between these two divulged too much information, unraveling Xiang Beifei's doubts about the system. Little did he expect that the essence of the system was connected to this great cauldron. Taoist Qingde initially set Tao embryos onto all humans to allow them to survive in the great desolate realm, helping them cultivate faster. And this Tao embryo was all connected to the Jojo Great Cauldron. Each system ability and system reward was granted by the ancestral artifact. The pills provided by the system, those swords, cultivation techniques, herbs, the ability to control desolate beasts, all from the heritage of the human race from 10,000 years ago, whether they came from trades with other races or were self-refined, it was all collected by Taoist Qingde. Taoist Qingde used the ancestral artifact to provide the human race a path to become stronger. But now it was unexpected that this matter had been discovered by Tao Palace. Further unexpected that the cauldron controlling the lifeblood of Jojo landed in Tao Palace's hands. In other words, Tao Palace already knew how to use this ancestral artifact cauldron to infiltrate every Jojo person's system. They constantly provide various system rewards to the human race, each inevitably carrying the special power of Tao Palace, invading everyone in Jojo. Tao Palace intends to use the ancestral artifact cauldron to manipulate each system power to annihilate the entire human race of Jojo.